and convince him that we need some of the soldiers to come up, and we're going to make a diversion, and we're going to use some soldiers around the edge of the defenses to be loud and pretend like we're going to have an offensive against the enemy, a counter-offensive.
Okay.
But it will all be more of a show, and I'm thinking maybe Norak might want to go with me. So, or who knows Pepperjack that would be more helpful in this adventure to convince him that this is a good idea, or at least not a terrible idea.
I don't mind going, but the ladies I think have done more communicating with him than I have. So, I mean, I definitely don't mind going.
Sarah's definitely more convinced.
All right, so Sarah, how's that sound? Should we go talk to Pepperjack about our quote-unquote plan?
Yeah, let's go.
All right.
What are Arteme and Norak doing then?
I'm probably gonna do some prep.
Oh shit! I had a couple of primers there for you too. Quick thing: medicine checks on an unconscious NPC. One of the optional rules that we'll start using for it is they'll act like a death save basically. So they won't automatically stabilize somebody, but they'll act like a death save with an easier DC. So as long as you roll a 6 or higher, it'll be a success. The downside being if you roll a 5 or lower, it counts as a failure for the death saving person. Everybody understand that?
So if I do a medicine check on somebody and I roll crappy like I normally do, they might.
The idea being that if you're there trying to assist somebody that's bleeding out, you might end up making the problem worse, making them bleed faster, for example. So yeah, I mean, if you roll a 5 or lower, so pretty low chance, but a 25% chance of making it worse, or a 75% chance of helping them stabilize.
Okay. How do I get my medicine up other than reading books and having someone else teach me?
That's pretty much the way. Now, obviously, keep in mind if you give them a potion or heal, any healing spells or anything of that sort, they automatically pop back up. It only takes 1 hit point to bring somebody back up. So those are still your primary means. Well, ideally, your primary means because they actually wake up. Whereas even if you stabilize them, they're still unconscious until they get a hit point back. But they're just not bleeding out
anymore. If it's an enemy and I want them to stay unconscious without killing them,
yeah,
that will be a bit harder.
The exhaustion effects I haven't put in yet, and then Arteme, the alchemical formula, I put in the suggestion spell called Siren's Breath. It's a very limited version of that, but basically if you can get somebody to breathe in, it's a smoke, and if you can get them to breathe it in, if they fail their save, will be under your suggestion for a short time, for about an hour, or up to an hour anyway, and then a smoke screen, like a bomb, basically. Both of those are on your sheet. There's 2 versions for the smoke screen: one that blinds the creatures that are in the field, and one that doesn't. So you can make whichever one you choose. Obviously, once you've made it, it's decided which version it's going to be.
Okay, so I'm gonna prep a couple science breath
And what?
and a smoke screen.
Okay. Smoke screen. Look at the info button for those. The smoke screen, roll an alchemy check and beat a 16. If you succeed, you get 1d2 smoke screen.
What am I rolling, sorry?
Go to your skills page in alchemy.
Okay.
Second from the top.
This is gonna sound weird. I've got a couple spell slots checked off. Did I just forget to uncheck them after a rest, or did I actually use some spell? Oh wait, no, we had a battle. Wait, did we rest after that? No, we had a battle. No, yeah, okay.
Yeah,
we haven't rested since that battle. That's why.
Yeah,
right.
it's only been, you guys, the last session was only like 3 hours. It's still the same day at 6:30 p.m.
So am I pressing the tab button or?
No, go to your skills tab.
Okay.
Just like you'd roll a regular skill.
Yeah,
Just
I'm
the
on
alchemy
the
there.
skill tab. I pressed the magnifying.
You're on the actions tab.
Oh, sorry.
Go to where your skills are. The same way you'd roll like an Arcana check or something.
Oh, wow. Okay.
What are we doing?
Which one am I rolling?
Alchemy. Fox is trying to make some of her.
I don't even have an alchemy.
Yeah, it's just a skill that I added for. It would, in this case, it would be a wisdom check. It'd be the same as a wisdom check.
All right.
All right. Then you've got a roll. No, not that's 2. Hang on. Let me give you a D2 here.
Okay.
There it is. You got 2, so you have 2 smokescreen bombs. And then if you're going to try to make some of the Siren's Breath, that one, look for the info, or hit the info button on it. That one is DC 14, so roll alchemy again. Cool. Alright, you beat both. And that one also, no, that one you got 1. So I'm going to put them in brackets just like we do for potions and things like that. So just remember you have those. Alright, so that took an hour of your time, so basically Artemis is doing that for an hour. What was Norok doing? No, sorry, Norok's going, well, no. Sarah's going with Pogo. What's Norok doing?
I thought part of the plan, if it still is for me to toss bodies off the wall to distract the Albatross. So I'm assuming I would need to talk to Pepperjack and see if I can, borrow a few of the recently deceased.
All right. Then the three of you,
So-
the 3 of you are going back to speak with Pepperjack. Then you head back to the tent. You hear that there is commotion on the north part of the camp, which is kind of the furthest away from you, with the mess hall and it, like most of the kind of center tents and buildings are in the middle of it. There's commotion on the other side of basically the far side of the inside of Dunscathach there. Doesn't sound like fighting, but there's noise coming from over there. But it's not, it doesn't sound, let's say, like you immediately need to respond necessarily. But you heading towards the command tent where you saw Pepperjack. He's still inside and he's looking at the map. Looks up at you guys when you come in. He says, "So have you changed your minds about your little suicide mission then?"
Oh, not even close. All right. So this is what we're gonna do, and then I basically take him through each step of our plan that we were, gonna use the bombs to attack them, basically make it look like we're doing a counteroffensive, and that we just need a number of soldiers to line the ramparts so that we can make the enemy actually believe that we're going to attack them. So basically just tell them the whole plan of what we have and what each person is going to be doing.
He looks contemplative. He doesn't respond for a minute, kind of just standing there taking in your guys' description of the plan. And then after a good, solid pause, he says, "It's not a bad idea. My concern is that if we do make them actually believe that we're about to attack, they will, of course, attack back. At least in effort to defend themselves. And that, to put it simply, we need our people more than he needs, more than the Khan needs his. So this is concerning, but I don't know that it's necessarily a bad idea. And if we can successfully get some of these beacons out there, it might be worth that small cost." What are your exact thoughts? I guess just launching these haphazardly into the war camp.
Pretty much, we're gonna aim for whatever targets we can aim for, but we don't have any specified unless you can give us better options. Obviously, we're gonna keep it away from that area we're trying to traverse, and we want to we don't want to hurt our friend, so nothing that we haven't seen yet. But in any other area where that there's perhaps a better target.
None of our spies have come back, so I can't say that I can give you ideal locations. Just the bigger the target is, the more likely it is to be valuable, at least for right now. We know that they at least have some giants on their side. We haven't seen them out yet, which is a little disconcerting because it means they're hiding them somehow. But they're definitely out there. But the bigger targets generally would be easier to hit, so that might be in our favor as well if we can manage to get a few out there. He says I can spare 2 catapults. They're not in great shape anyway. Of course, they're kind of ramshackle for how we built them. But at least you can get some bombs at some greater distance than what you'd be able to throw. Throwing, I can't imagine you're going to really get very far anyway.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to need a lot of time. We basically need to make them look towards us while she gets around the back to hopefully take a look inside that strange area of mist and plant one of those beacons. It's where you think that those beasties are laying low. So you said they always go back when it's raining. Do they ever come out when it's raining? Have you seen them
Not
come
so
out?
far.
Not so far. All right, we're gonna try
I
to
think
be
it's
as...
more the thunder that they don't like. It's just usually it's one and the same around here.
All right. Well, hopefully this doesn't disturb them too much. We don't want to aim in that general area where we'd be too scared of waking them up, and those are who we really don't want to jump on this bandwagon and try to attack us.
He nods. He says, "You said she, so since she's not here, I assume you mean Artemis is going to be the one going
Yep.
by herself."
So she'll be disguised, and we have a possible extraction plan as well. And we're gonna go around. We're gonna be going around the back of the main enemy force. So hopefully we can get in and out without too much drama.
When you mean around the back, what route is she going to go? I want to make sure my men aren't involved in the area she's going to be in case she is disguised and confused for the enemy.
Yeah, she's going to be going around the east and south area. So outside the secret entrance, and then south and right to the east of the... Basically, still close enough to seem like one of the enemy forces, but staying on the outside ring.
Okay.
Sorry, I just seen what you meant. To specify the blinding selection potion.
Okay. He still seems contemplative. He's it seems like he's hesitant to approve of this, and the reason being, at least as far as he told you, is that this distraction, the more convincing it is, the more risky it is that the Legion could, immediately attack, and they wouldn't be able to, at least as he expects, they wouldn't be able to defend against that. But the downside being, you do need to draw as much attention away from the foggy area.
Did he already explain why these guys haven't attacked already?
They have attacked a few times, just not in force. They basically...
But like, why they haven't... Like, if they're such an overwhelming force, why they're just waiting? Is there a reason?
He has not told you that, and in fact, this is the first time that anybody's asked that question.
Pogo would like to ask that question.
Okay. He kind of looks. He's not surprised by the ask, I guess, but he does kind of look at you sharply, and there's just a very subtle squint. Make an insight check. Well, it starts the game off well, I suppose. He says, "Okay, tell you what. It's clear that he's not telling you that there was a reason that he suspects, but has not told you so far. And then, so you can pick that much up. And then it's clear that he's still kind of holding something back. He says, I don't know what it is that they want, but we suspect that there's something in here that they're after. As much as I can tell you is the spies that have not made it back, they haven't all just been killed outright. They've been taken and tortured.
So is there something that we should maybe know? I mean, we've helped you out pretty well. We got this thing here with Samson all the way back from, the ocean.
I'll tell you, I don't know exactly what it is. There's a couple of things I suspect, but with the sensitive nature of all of this, I really can't afford, especially with some of you, leaving the walls here shortly, I can't risk you knowing information that could, be extracted from you.
Well, if you want, you could tell me. I'm not leaving the walls. I'm not going to tell anybody.
You say that until you fall over the other side because explosion behind you or something.
Well, think of it this way. So we're only gonna probably last out a few more days, anyways, right? So basically, if you tell me, I won't tell Sarah. Artemis. I'm not gonna tell Artemis anything about this. So if I get captured or whatever, being inside this area, chances are we're all gonna die anyways. So if you tell me, I won't tell her, and then maybe it'll help in another situation or this situation. It'd be a little more helpful than not telling us anything.
Go ahead and make a persuasion check. I'll tell you that it's next to impossible. He almost
All
certainly
right.
won't tell you, but you might as well make one anyways.
Put one there.
Yeah. He says, "I appreciate your candor and your help thus far, but it's the lives of everyone inside these walls that I'm trying to protect here."
All right.
That being said, if while you're up there or while Arteme is out there, if you speak to her before she leaves, if anything sounds like a clue or something that may be what it is that they're after, something that might help us maybe have a bargaining chip of some sort, then by all means that information would be very useful.
Wait, are you talking to me?
Yeah. He says to you that if you guys talk to Arteme, if while you're up on the walls or if while Arteme is out amongst them, that if you guys see or hear something out there that might give an idea of what it is they're after, then that might be helpful, of course, in giving. If basically, if you guys know what it is that they're after, then that could be used to parlay with them maybe, or as a bargaining chip of some sort, like give them this and let us leave, that kind of thing.
Interesting. Well, all right. I'll relay that to Arteme. She's the only one going out there, so we'll see.
He says you guys are, I would just say stupid, but considering your luck so far, braver than I am, I'd say that.
Wait, so he wants us to find out if there's whatever it is that they're looking for, if we can give it to them, so that way we can all leave?
Not necessarily. He does. So, at least as far as what he's told and what you've been able to gather, Pogo via his insight check, he doesn't know exactly what it is that they're after, but it is. Okay, so the Legion has more than enough forces here that could have wiped everybody out. There's 50,000 of them. There's only 5,000 of you, and it's not like you guys are in, a well-defended castle wall, like with stone walls and everything. You guys have mud walls around you, and not nearly enough defenders. Like they could have just overrun the place and left. And you do know, by the way, that remember when you guys were coming here, there were multiple companies of the Vabian. When you were coming back, there were multiple companies of the Legion that were still heading north along the roads. They weren't coming here. They were going. Here, I'll show you the bring the map up again.
With our amazing battle plan written on there.
It looks like a bad football play.
Yeah.
It's
called the next day pizza slices that were thrown in the box. That's what it's called.
So you guys, where you crossed the road, see that new line that I just added? You going north?
Yeah.
That the Legion that you guys saw, the companies of the Legion you saw there, they were not going to Dunskathic. They were still going north. So you know that there are forces of the Legion that are still headed north for other reasons. There's more than enough forces here, and if they wanted to just overrun this place and kill everyone, they would have done so already. So what he was saying is that they don't know, or he doesn't know, what it is that they're after, but there's clearly something inside here that they're, trying not to wipe everybody out for whatever reason, because they keep capturing the spies, and every time they capture the spies, they torture them.
Right, so I'm going to pull out one of the scrolls that we found down in the ruins and just be like, well, I'm pretty sure that whatever it is they're looking for isn't here. Because based on this scroll that says they were expecting a shipment from Vindy, it was dangerous and it never arrived.
Which scroll is that?
One of the ones that we found down...
In the subterranean?
Yeah, underneath Dunskathic.
Okay. You show it to him?
Yeah, because otherwise we looked all over the place.
He takes it from you and looks it over, and you can see by his eyes that he's read it and then reads it again and then reads it again, and then he looks back up at you and he says, "When did you find this?"
We found it when we found the tunnel for the secret entrance. When you had us go down under.
Down under.
This was like 2 weeks before you started, Justin.
Yeah.
When they went into, basically when they cleared out the place where all when you came in through the tunnel and all the sick people are down there in the subterranean, they cleared that out. There was a bunch of mimics and shit down there, and they cleared that out and they found that scroll. But they didn't ever mention it to Pepperjack until now. So anyways, in that scroll, this is a little bit of history here, but basically
Don't eat. Sorry, hang on.
Is it the new puppy?
Yeah, he just threw up his dog food. I was trying to
eating
eat
too
it.
fast. Anyways, the scroll is very old, and it actually refers to Mist by the name of the previous kingdom that eventually became the Empire of Mist, which was Vindi. So Mist used to be a smaller kingdom called Vindi, and then Vavi was to the south, which is still Vavi, the Vavian Domain. But when it became an empire, they started gobbling up all the nearby countries, and then that's what the empire is now. But anyways, the scroll refers to a shipment that was supposed to be coming from Vindi to here, to Dunskathak, when this was an actual existing place, when this was still a live kingdom and people lived here. But it was a dangerous shipment that never arrived, and that's there's like a merchant's letter kind of a thing. So anyways, he reads this over. He says this could be what they're referring to. I mean, I don't have any way to know, but as old as this is, I mean, for all I know, it could be buried in one of the subterranean rooms that collapsed. And he looks like despondent. He looks more hopeless than he did previously, I guess, from having read that. He says, "Do you mind if I hold on to this?"
Go for it.
This could have been helpful earlier, by the way. But I mean, I appreciate you letting us know now.
We didn't exactly realize
Too
that it would have
bad.
been helpful.
Right.
I mean, it's a letter from 114 DE. It wasn't exactly something we thought would be pertinent right now.
Also, I mean, it doesn't even really say what it was. It said what it was. We could maybe pull the play with it, but I don't know what we're gonna do if we didn't even know what it was in the first place. Just something dangerous.
Yeah. That was before you were with them, by the way, so you didn't know about it specifically. But I'm looking for the note itself. Do you actually?
I wrote down what it said. It just says it is dangerous. It never arrived. It was supposed to be something from Vindi.
Okay.
Yeah. They were expecting shipment from Vindi. It was very dangerous. It never arrived. Is all I have to.
Yeah. That's about what it said, anyways. That was the general note of it. I was just looking for the verbatim text, but that's fine. Anyways, he is, like I said, a little bit more, like, it almost seems more hopeless, because the way that as old as that is, it would be, if it's still here, it could be buried. Like, it could be long buried. It could have been in a room in that subterranean, because remember, when you guys were down there's a lot of the rooms that have collapsed in, and it could be buried in any of those. So he doesn't have any way of knowing. But anyways, he's grabbed that. He says, I don't know. At best, if you guys hear something while you're out there, or if Arteme does, please let me know. It could be the difference between, all of us being wiped out here, or at least the civilians escaping. But in the meantime, as long as we can keep the mages moving, if we can just survive a few more days, we'll be able to be behind the walls of the fort, and then we should be okay from there out. We can teleport out if we need to. So, what all do you need? Catapults? You can have those. What else
we
would
need
give
some
you?
soldiers on the ramparts on the southern walls, and we're gonna make a commotion. We're gonna also have Norak here, this big guy, throw some dead bodies as far as he can from the wall to distract all of the ghoulie guys. Al-Bashar.
He kind of squints a little bit, then he nods slightly. He says, "All right, this plan sounds a little better. I mean, that adds some tangibility to how you're going to distract the enemy away from Arteme trying to run through their ranks. So this at least seems viable. Just be careful. If you're up on top of the walls, you're going to be a prime target. They're not very solid walls to begin with, and if they decide to rush, that they can bring the walls down beneath you."
Yeah. Have we noticed any Seerdomen that have been out wandering around on the other side of the wall within like 100?
If you spend any time looking outside, you see them walking amongst usually with a big Mortrolis, like one of the big brutes with them. Most of the time you've seen a Seerdom, and they usually have one with them, one specific one that's usually their personal bodyguard, including Maebi in the past. But anyways, you do see them wandering around, but you do occasionally see one that is clearly a Seerdoman, but head shaved, in darker, like almost nearly black robes, that does not have a guard. And they're more rare. They walk amongst the crowd as well. Going from, basically, they tend to walk along the Mortrolis lines, and then they'll go from one camp to the next to the next. remember how they're all separated into those kind of individual squares, right? Where all the tents and all the camps and everything in the middle, and then a big square around of the dead soldiers.
Yeah.
Oh.
And that's farther than 120 feet?
Oh yeah,
Okay.
yeah. You're probably just barely able to see the front lines of the soldiers at 120 feet of the backlights, because the first probably 30 feet, 20 to 30 feet or so is just empty, and then it's just a huge ring of Albashar all the way around that is probably 20 feet deep or so, and then a big gap, and then right after that is where you start seeing the backlights and then the archers behind them.
And the only reason I don't think they're going to attack over this is we're not going to have a sustained long attack. We'll separate the explosions maybe by a minute or so, and then it's going to be... They're not the kind of soldiers that are going to act without command, and I don't think their commanders really care about their own soldiers. I feel like they're going to continue holding the plan that they are already holding based off what we know of them.
That's certainly true. I've got to ask then, how do you intend to communicate with Arteme? I mean, if she's outside and traveling around the east side, how are you intending to coordinate this distraction with when she needs it to be distracted?
Well, what I'm thinking we do is she can go a little bit further out away from the rear of the lines, and we should be able to estimate the amount of time it will take her to get kind of fairly close, like towards the lines, but fairly close to that area, and then she will make her final approach when we cause the diversion. So she'll see and hear the diversion as well, and then she'll go ahead and continue her approach towards the targets. So it'll be a bit coordinated.
Time-wise, that's needle in a haystack, though. You realize that, right?
Not
I mean,
really.
if she's running around the outside, you won't have enough black powder to set off a bomb every minute for the next hour. And it could take anywhere from, it could take her, depending on the route she goes, could take anywhere from 15 minutes to, an hour to go around the outside. So that'd be, even if you set up one off every minute, that's 45 bombs.
Do we have any way to communicate with her?
I was gonna look at Pepperjack. Do you have any more sending still?
I don't even know if she could use that in her form.
He points to the one on his table, but that's it. He says, "I'm just waiting for Clover on this one, but I obviously can't spare this."
Is there a T-Mobile anywhere around here?
Well, we don't need to set one off every minute if we're estimating how long it'll take her to get close, then do distraction until she runs in.
What if we just give her 45... How long does her spell last for?
What spell are you
1
referring
hour? The change shape.
to? Fox, 3 hours, isn't it?
It was when we ran in.
It
Yeah.
was,
I think it's 3 hours per use of it, right?
3 hours per use, so I could have up to 6 hours.
So why don't we give it a time of 1 hour from when she leaves to run around to get in position to actually go in and set one of these beacons. At 1 hour, she blends in as best she can with the enemy rear lines, and then at 1 hour we cause a diversion, giving her a chance to do what she needs to do. And she can try to
Pepperjack.
pick up here or see anything while on the way.
Pepperjack nods. He says, "All right, well, I'll send... I can't really afford a coal company. I'll send 2 squads over. You'll have 40 of my men at the wall, and I'll send them
Alright.
over in 25 minutes."
Make sure they grab their shields in case they're archers. Luckily, we're not going to be sighting an offensive for real, so all they'll have to focus on is making noise and dodging arrows.
We're professionals at making noise and dodging arrows, so that won't be a
Ah,
problem.
me too. What are the chances?
He actually chuckles a little bit. He took it to mean that you're a loudmouth.
All right. Well, I think that's about. Did anyone else think of anything else that we're going to do?
No, but where are those bodies at?
Um,
We're gonna need those to toss over the wall.
They're actually on the west side, so you guys probably haven't really been over there. They're kind of actually, conveniently enough, a little bit close to where Norok's little camp is. That they're kind of masking Sorsha's smell, who is still there, but they're basically near the wall on the west side. So you basically would grab those and just take them, to the southwest corner where you guys are intending
And
to do that.
Norok, if you have to just rip off limbs and throw those, that's fine too. That'll be intimidating.
Look, they're shredding their own men.
Alright.
Cool.
Then you guys head back. Are you going back to find Arteme?
Yeah, make sure, see if she's ready, and see if we can see what we can do about this plan. Get it started.
All right. So you find her.
Should we
in
wait until it's a little bit darker?
It's about as dark as well. It was 6:30.
raining
It's probably by 7 by now.
Yeah, we don't want to wait too long in case the rain and thunder stop.
Well, you come across Arteme at the little camping area, the little outcropping camp, under her tent, and she had been mixing up something that she has kind of just finished stopping into a small little glass vial. It looks like smoke inside of the vial. But you find her there. Go ahead. So what are you guys doing?
I'm gonna ask her if I'm gonna fill her in on everything we talked to Pepperjack about. That we've got 40 troops who are gonna line the walls. We're gonna make a diversion, and we're gonna wait 1 hour from after you leave to start the diversion, which should give you enough time to. You can take your time if you need to, as opposed to running straight full blast. And then when you see the diversion happen, you can see what's inside that cloud of smoke and hopefully not get. Oh, also, if you hear anything else about what these people might be looking for, or if you see any other targets that could be important, you may want to see if it's an option to plant another one of those beacons.
Didn't I already have 2 beacons?
I
He
think.
gave you 2. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, because my plan was to.
And if you
put,
see maybe,
a
how did I say hello?
bomb on the rookery, and if I find any Mortibus, the giant zombies, I was gonna put one where they're gathering in a garrison or whatever.
Perfect.
Okay.
All right. So, this should be interesting, fellas. Can I, before I go up there with everyone, can I grab? I know I'm not proficient in shields, so what would that mean if I wanted to grab a shield? Would that help in this situation?
So here's the thing. Generally, with armor, you can wear it if you're not proficient with it, but you have
Drops your
disadvantage
speed in
against.
half.
Yeah, exactly, and then you have disadvantage against the dex saves, things like that. With shields, you're supposed to just be proficient, or you don't get any benefit from it. But I would say that if you're not moving, you can still use it and get the
Because
AC bonus from it.
because I feel like a normal size shield would almost cover my whole body. I
Pretty
wouldn't really
close.
have to use it as a shield. I could just kind of stand.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, like if you're just if you're not moving, then you can kind of just hide behind it, basically.
Prop it up
and,
and then.
yeah, and still get the benefits of it. So. Trying to carry it, obviously, or use it to deflect something that's coming at you intentionally, rather than hiding behind it as if it were a rock.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Would be a little less effective. So,
All right.
all right. Well, you guys, you're there for 20 minutes or so near the southwest of the camp before the 2 wheeled. They're not very well made, but 2 wheeled catapults are being pushed your direction. And then they stop. And the crow blinders that are manning them basically just stop there. They're 15 feet back from the wall, and then the wall isn't super tall. The wall's only about probably 10 or 12 feet tall, but they're basically on the ground below the wall, a few feet back, like 15 feet back.
All right. Are the crow blinders staying to operate the catapults?
There's a soldier who is he's dressed in yellow, which is a little odd. That's not the crow blinders' colors. But a lot of the crow blinders are not in the proper livery. But he had wheeled up a big crate that was on like a wheelbarrow, essentially. And he kind of stands there and he gives you like a little fake salute. He says, commander told us to bring these over. I guess you got some things on the other side of the wall you want blown up.
That's about right. Are you going to be the man working these machines for us?
Sure am.
Fantastic. And I guess we...
you point in the direction we need to go, tell us how far you need it to be shot, and I'll get it there.
Cool. Well, so if the blue circle's where the guys are, I'm thinking we go somewhere around here.
That purple circle?
Yeah. And then around here. So basically to
shooting that direction is going to be a little bit harder because you're going to be you still can. It was just really you're basically flying over a bunch of Dunskathak and the good guys essentially to get to the other side of the wall. It's a little more risky, but because it's not going directly over the wall there, unless you want them to wheel, one of the catapults to the other side. If they wheel one to the southeast to do that, that might work.
Where are we? So
you guys are basically where the point of that cone that you have there. Delete your 2 cones.
Okay.
And who's the blue? That's Becky? No, that's Fox. If you guys delete those cones, I can drop a circle. Right. Which one is it? Alt? Nope. Whoops. Did not mean to move that. Well, all right. That square is basically where you guys are.
Oh, okay. That makes more sense. So, how about we just do this then? How about we keep it on this side, and that'll draw the attention from the west over to the southeast as opposed to the southwest.
He nods. He says, "You got it. We can do that."
All right.
Before Arteme leaves, I'm gonna tap her on the shoulder and give her mage armor.
Okay. Go ahead and mark off your spell slot. And then if you would apply that effect to her as well, the one that doesn't say self, if you just drag it over and drop it on her. I don't remember if it still has the self version or not. Are you making spell slots?
Oh shit. No, wrong one.
Okay.
My bad.
Sorry, Justin. There you go. All right, Fox, that means your AC, it's a minimum of 13. Let me look at it again. I don't remember. How does the mage armor work, Becky?
It is... So, the target's base AC becomes 13 plus dexterity modifier.
Downside, though, who isn't wearing armor, and she is wearing leather armor already.
Oh, shit.
So, well, hang on. It becomes 13 plus its dex mod. So, Fox, if you choose to, you can spend 1 minute taking your armor off. And then if she puts this on you for the next 8 hours, because it lasts for 8 hours, it's not concentration, your AC would become 13 plus your dex mod. Your dex mod is plus 2, so it'd be 15. So your AC would actually be 2 points higher for the next 8 hours for not wearing your armor. Okay.
I'm also gonna put my cloak on between myself and
Okay.
concentration before I shoot. So I'll help.
Okay. Before you leave, though?
Yeah, right before I leave.
Okay. Then in that case, let me just remember that you need to put your armor back on afterwards, because I've just marked it as not being worn right now. So, with Mage Armor on, your effective AC should now be 15. Let's just remember that it should be 15, because it shows Mage Armor effect in there, AC plus 3, so it should work correctly. I just want to make sure that if something tries to hit you, if they roll a 16 or above, it'll still hit. If they roll 15 below, then 15 or above, it'll still hit. So just remember that your AC is 15 for right now, and then remember, obviously, to put your leather armor back on afterwards.
Okay.
All right, so you guys have the bodies, the bombs, the catapults, all in the southwest corner of Dunskathak and ready to go. Arteme, they've filled you in on what Pepperjack said, so you heard all of that. So what are you guys doing?
Well, I'm gonna nonchalantly sit in the back of the group and just kind of feel my left hand. It's there.
Give me an Arcana check. Justin, let me know when you're back. There is a very vague, translucent kind of mist coming up off of through your shirt, and you can see just this kind of vague, translucent outline of where your arm should be, and it's kind of wreathed in these gray swirls from Sorconnell.
The hell did I miss?
Okay.
Sarah checking out her arm.
Okay. I'm like,
The rain-
gray squirrels? Shit.
Swirls. The
swirls.
rain is soaking her shirt, and it's kind of pressing against where her arm isn't, but she can kind of start to feel like she's getting think of it like ghost limb syndrome, where you can feel something's touching it, or phantom limb rather, that kind of thing. But she's starting to feel like there's a tactile response to her arm, even though it's not there.
Neato.
So the you were gone. The catapults, the bombs, the bodies, and the soldiers have all just arrived. Basically, you have everything you need in the southwest corner of Dunskathak. Sarah has given Arteme mage armor. What are you guys doing?
I'm going to go tell the soldiers of what we are going to do up on the wall, and we are going to be as loud and boisterous and obnoxious, and I want them to give me their best war cries.
They kind of smile at you, and it's almost demeaning, not quite demeaning, but just like, because you're just there's a little bit of comedy to the situation that you're this itty bitty little guy and you're
Sure.
talking to old veterans, and they
The way I see it, if we're gonna die, we might as well have some fun.
there's
Let's
the both
piss
of the
these fucking guys off.
you're talking to the two sergeants that lead these two squads, and they both kind of grin at you, and then they just take their all of them are holding shields, of course, but they take the butt end of their short swords and just playing them against the shield, just making noise.
All right. Well,
You got it, boss.
we haven't done it. Yeah. Okay. That was like we're not doing it now, right?
No,
I explained myself. Like we gotta wait a little. Not now. All right, calm down, guys.
Quick question. So the wall that goes all the way around Dunskathak, can you walk along the top of the wall all the way around?
So some sections of it are still stone, and then they've built kind of wooden frameworks around it, which is why the whole area has been deforested. And then the areas where it's been damaged or there wasn't enough stone left to build around is just mud. So, but yes, basically for most of it, you can get up on top of it, and there are thin ramparts. Basically, there's not much as far as protection. For arrows is probably okay, but anything bigger than that will go right through it. So we basically have like a log walls around the outside.
Is there a clear path from towards where the secret entrance is, all the way over towards where the flying things?
No,
I assume are?
you're looking from the southwest all the way to the northeast, like the opposite corner, and through the middle of it is where the mess hall and all the command tents and everything are.
Oh no, I just meant around the outside of the wall. Can you make it all the way over? Like if you're standing on top of the wall.
Probably it would be in a few places. Like you're looking along the wall to the east, and there are probably like half a dozen places where the wall had been destroyed and has been refilled with mud. So you could run along that, but it's going to be really slippery, of course, if you needed to, just because it's raining and it's already mud anyway. So it's basically very slick. If you were to slip off of that, it could be bad, especially if you slipped onto the enemy side.
I'm gonna go find Pepperjack really quick and see if he has a spyglass or something that I can see better long range.
As you're on your way there, you see him actually walking out to the north. Like he had just left the command tent and he's walking out to the north, where all that noise was. You catching up to him to talk to him?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Okay.
I want to ask him if it's odd for an external speed on the road without a rider. If they've seen anything like that, just to double check.
Okay. Well, you kind of shout him down as he's walking away from you. He says, "I've got to hurry, guys. So, what is it? Quickly."
Do you have a spyglass? Anything that will help me see long range?
Tell the quartermaster. I don't know if Rook is still in there, but tell whoever's running the mess hall right now to give you one, under my order.
Thank you.
Is it odd to see an still running around without a rifle?
It's odd to see an Iskill at all. What is your... This is a very odd question. I mean, they're never really without some kind of controller, sure. They don't really operate on their own.
Okay.
Remember too, they're zombies, but they're raised for a purpose. They're not just like out wandering around. Not to mention it'd be like seeing an Egyptian mummy. If zombies were a thing, it'd be like seeing just one just walking around. It'd probably have been raised for a reason.
Okay, so if they would see one alone, they would just passport.
Could, maybe.
Okay.
They don't have to be near the one that raised them, if that's what you mean.
Perfect.
He kind of gives you a half-hearted salute. He says, "Good luck out there." I don't think I'll see you again, but I certainly hope to.
Stop trying to jinx us.
He says, "It's all in the name, right? We're called crow blinders for a reason." And he continues, walking off towards the north.
Alright, I'm gonna go see if I can't get that spyglass.
Okay. You step in. It's a man behind the counter. I don't think you've seen him before. Pogo has a couple of times. Rook is not there, but he doesn't give you any trouble. He just he goes into the back and comes back out. It takes him a minute, and he comes back out with one. He says, "This isn't the best one we've got, but it'll have to do."
That's perfectly fine. I just need something.
He looks out the kind of doorway, which is just basically leathers hanging over an open door, like a door portal. He looks out. He says, "It's raining pretty hard out there, so I would do your best to not get water in it. It won't work for a while if you get water in it."
Alright.
All right. Did you guys make it? Where? I guess. What are you doing now?
Has Arteme already left?
Not yet.
Okay. Let's see. So we still have at least an hour. I think
You have the
Pogo's-
soldiers there now. Like you basically, you guys can get started at any time.
Well, before the soldiers take their place, I'd like to tell them. I'd like to gather them together. And in fact, if anyone else in the group wants to be there as well, I've got a nice speech presented for them.
Well, you gather them up. They're all kind of just milling about anyways, but they're all standing in the rain with their shields on top of their heads. One arm holding it up, umbrella style. So they're. Just
I'm gonna find. I'm gonna find a rock to stand on so I can give them a nice.
Well, you can stand. You can stand on the inside of the wall. There's basically like
Alright.
stairs and things like that lead up to the inside.
I'll stand up on the inside of the wall.
Okay.
And I'm going to look out over these 40 men, and I'm going to tell them, "We shall go our way into battle. We shall be accompanied by the spirit of millions of our martyrs, our ancestors tortured and burned for their faith, our murdered fathers and butchered mothers, our murdered brothers and strangled children, and in this battle we shall break the enemy and bring salvation to our people, tried in the furnace of persecution, thirsting only for freedom, for righteousness, and for justice."
The two sergeants look at you and said, "Pepperjack told us he wanted us to make noise.
Yes.
What is this about strangled children and going into battle? We're supposed to make noise."
Yes. Make noise for those strangled children that you've lost.
There's a certain kind of morose mentality, like an acceptance of death, like what's the word I'm looking for, like a morose humor a little bit to them, but they kind of just chuckle and they all shake their heads and then go back to kind of just talking amongst themselves and so on.
Trying to inspire them.
It was an inspiring speech, but maybe I don't know what movie you got that from, but because it doesn't it's not quite applicable at the moment. But I would say go ahead and give a performance check.
Alright.
See if maybe it'll boost their spirits a bit.
Nope, they're milling around.
that roll is about what I expected. Their response to be like not negative, just like kind of chuckle a little bit and then go back to what they were doing. What's Noak doing?
We're gonna get some of the bodies ready in a pile. Get ready to throw.
Okay.
so I'm all set up.
Okay.
Like spread them out a bit, you know, so that way they're in neat piles, a few feet apart, or 5 feet, 10 feet apart, something like that.
All right, then we'll say that you've dragged up by now. I mean, it only takes you, a minute to do each one to take them from the west part of the camp to where you need them to be. So you've probably pulled over 10 or so along the wall.
Okay.
Alright, is there a decent vantage point on the wall that I can get a good view of, like, the misted area and where Artemis would be coming from?
You, through the rain and as dark as it is, like just the actual natural fog, you can't really see very well into the southeast section. Like you can see where the big fog dome is because it stands out so clearly, but it's like the rain is so heavy that you can't get a lot of detail out there. Like you're pretty sure you won't be able to even see, an individual little creature, even one as big as an Iskil, moving out there.
No, that's fine. I just want to keep an eye out in that general vicinity for, like, any kind of big commotion.
Okay. Yeah, you would probably, you'd be able to tell because the rows of soldiers would probably move. Like the big squares aren't really moving very much. There's individuals that are moving amongst them, but the camps themselves are mostly, not sleeping, but they're not moving quickly, I guess is how I'd say it. So if there was a big enough commotion, you'd probably notice it.
Okay.
Okay, I'm gonna go out this is the entrance. I'm gonna walk to where like the first little arrows were pointing and then
Okay.
I'm going to use Long Strider, pass without trace, and then just walk through this stuff.
Okay. Go ahead and mark them off.
All right. So I guess we're taking me and the soldiers. If she's leaving, we're getting ready to take our positions. We're gonna
Okay.
count down. We're gonna count down the amount of time it takes her to get in a general area, about an hour.
So you're going to start in 1 hour, basically, as soon as she leaves. That's when you're
she
going to start
leaves.
making noise?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I didn't tell you guys this ahead of time because I didn't want you to think you'd be able to cheat. It is the concentration effect. I guess you have them right on there, Fox. It shows you both. One of them is the concentration effect, and then the other is the skill. So that'll be fine, like it is. Yeah. It looked like you had done it twice, but it's actually just one is the effect and one is the concentration. So what we're going to be doing here, not that it would be cheating necessarily, but what we're going to be doing here is because you guys are splitting the party and it is an actual like full-on split, like neither of you would have any idea what the other group is doing. Fox, I'm going to drop you into the side chat here, and then I'll switch back and forth as things are moving back and forth. Make sense?
Ooh,
Okay.
neato.
So I'll try to switch back and forth, quickly, so that it's not too long on either side, so that nobody's getting bored and everything.
Getting fancy.
But that's what it's for, anyways. The downside being that the background music and everything will move. I'll be moving those too, so it'll be a little bit boring on either side. So what I'm going to do is so that you guys can see, when I'm switching back and forth, I'll hit the ready check. So you guys can take, if you wanted to take a little break or something between them, you can. It probably won't take that long, but depending on how long your individual turns take between the two groups, we'll be using the combat tracker for some of it as well. But that way you guys can see on your screen if you take your headset off. Make sense?
Okay.
Sure.
All right. Then, Fox, I'll go ahead and drop you down. And I'm going to start with hers because she's the one leaving and you guys are taking an hour. Are you doing anything during this hour specifically?
Let's see.
I want to look at that paper and see if I've got any response back from what I wrote.
From Corinzantilus? You have not gotten a response yet. It's blank right now.
Okay, so
Okay.
over that hour, I'm just gonna wait for a response.
Just keep checking it?
Nothing to
Okay.
do.
Okay.
I'm gonna-
You are out in the rain, so getting it wet's probably a bad idea too. So you'll have to be careful doing that. Gonna do what, Pogo?
I think I'm going to climb up to where my planned vantage point is, and I'm going to use a gem of seeing to look over and see if I see anything for the first 120 feet that could be problematic or anything weird.
As soon as you get up on there and pull out your gem and look out amongst the crowd, you see at least 3 of these floating orbs that they glow a little bit because initially, at least, it seems like they were obscured but there are 3 glowing orbs that you said. There's definitely more, because basically they're moving along the lines amongst the front of the groups, and then kind of some move it back and forth and so on. So you can tell that they're moving amongst the crowd, but they are about the size of a basketball, and looking actually, because that gives you dark vision as well. You'll be able to make out details. They're a floating eyeball.
Floating eyeballs.
Yeah, a disembodied floating eyeball that has a trail of optic nerves sticking out the back, that are floating and kind of looking around and moving amongst the
Would
crowd.
would Pogo know what those were? Or just
You mean Arcana check? DC's pretty high, so nope.
all right?
Never seen it before.
I would. I still have some time, right? Do I have enough time to get to Pepperjack and ask him about floating eyeball orbs?
You can, and I'll come back to you in just a second. I'm going to hop over
All right.
to Fox. Okay. Okay. Hey, Fox. Do it. All right. So you are you've just turned into the Eskil and start running out the outside of the camp. Are you just like booking it as fast as you can?
Yeah.
Okay. Then the outside of this, are you okay? I guess give me a specific description of this group. Are you going in any particular route?
No, just like weaving through the trees slowly, not trying to draw attention, but not being like completely stealthy.
Okay.
Like just normally.
Okay. Then you rushing as fast as you can. You are outside of the group, of course. You do see the kind of the back, the outside edge, where it's mostly Mortrillis that are on the outside, and then you're just kind of passing. It's almost like passing like streets, like running down, passing streets on your right, essentially, where it's just a row of Mortrillis with big tents in the middle, which are kind of building like houses. And then you do see some very large tents around the outside of the back that you hadn't. They're most of the tents near the front, near the walls, are not so big, but some very, very large tents around the back. You spend, it takes you a good 40 to 45 minutes or so of running through this around the outside. Go ahead and give me a stealth check.
Okay.
It should automatically apply the plus 10 for the.
What about the cloak?
What is the cloak? Gives you advantage, right?
I think so. Let me
Get it real quick.
double check.
Cloak of Elvenkind. Perception checks to see you have disadvantage, and you have advantage on stealth checks made to hide. This isn't really to hide. This is just the kind of detection. So go ahead and roll it. You still did the plus 10, but this isn't you specifically trying to hide. Just because I have to, because it's too amusing.
How bad did I do?
Take a wild guess.
Oh, okay.
But you are on the outside of the grouping of all the soldiers, of course. You are definitely drawing some eyes, though. There's the Mortrillis don't care, but the backlights that are on the inside that are kind of wandering around inside, more than once along this time, you see point in your direction, and they're still basically you're running too fast. You're not stopping to really address them. But more than once you see soldiers, humans, that kind of point at you kind of confusedly, and then are talking to amongst the other soldiers there as you go running by. But you run as fast as you possibly can near the outer rings of this through the lines. You can see you're coming around the edge of their where the copses of trees are. You can see the fog, like the big fog dome. You presume is a sphere, of course, but half of it's underground. You see this big fog dome, and then you can tell from this side. You can actually see that the fog is big enough that there's actually a row of soldiers around the outside of it as well. So you are going to have to go through one grouping, at least, basically, of the Mortrillis lines, and then the camps in the middle, the tents in the middle.
Okay.
So about 45 minutes have passed at this point. So it's up to you. Basically, the arrangement you would explained with the with the group earlier is to go an hour, right? Was that the plan?
I think so. But like, I still have to get back, right?
I'm not sure what you mean.
Well, okay, so right, they were gonna like try and distract the town.
Yeah, they're going to start their distraction an hour after you left, and it's been 45 minutes now.
Okay, so I'll just wait around on the tops of the trees for them to start.
Okay, so you're going to wait to hear a distraction from them, or from the northwest, anyways, before you do anything. Okay. That thing is in the way, but that'll work. Okay, all right. I'll switch back. I'll come back to you in just a minute.
Okay.
For decoration.
Yeah.
All right, I'm back.
Never mind.
All right.
What's that?
Oh, no. Just saying, have a random pig's head.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh.
Not game related.
Okay.
I'm just looking at videos. I'm looking at little gifs of people making like fancy food at fancy restaurant, and the shit's so weird. It's making me hungry.
And one of them was a pig's head?
Nope, just a pig's skull.
Okay.
It looked like it was burnt, so I don't know if they're planning on cracking it open and eating the marrow from inside or what.
There's not marrow inside the skull, though.
I mean, there's marrow inside femur bones. Maybe there's a little marrow inside. It might not have been real. Maybe it was made of chocolate. I truly have no idea.
Well, the skull itself, the bone is really thin. I can't imagine there'd be much of any if there is marrow
Yeah.
inside of it.
the brain.
Yeah, I
Maybe
mean, eating
there
the
was a
brain
brain
is,
inside of it.
yeah, that's well, I'd say normal. That's clearly not normal, but that is a normal thing that
Yeah.
certain cultures do, certainly. Anyway, so it's about 45 minutes or so have passed. Pogo, you were going to see Pepperjack?
I just wanted to see if he knew what the if I have enough time. And if he
He's
knows
not at the
what
command tent.
Yeah, I'm not gonna go. I don't think I can hunt around for him. Is there anyone there I can ask to see if they know where he went?
When you are approaching his command tent, you see Samson coming out of it.
Right. Hey, Samson, do you know where? I'm gonna run back to him. You know where Pepperjack went? Or do you know what? There seem to be invisible flying eyeballs all over the place outside. Do you know what those are?
Huh?
Yeah, outside there's invisible floating eyeballs all over the place. I used my nifty gem of seeing to take a look around, and there's floating basketball-size eyeballs.
What's a basketball?
You're right. There's floating pig's head-size eyeballs floating around outside, seemingly above where the soldiers are. Maybe like scanning through the area, but I don't know what they're doing. And I saw them when I looked through my gem of seeing to get an eye at what's going on outside.
I have no idea what you're talking about. You probably need to ask one of the mages, but they're a little bit preoccupied.
Yeah,
I mean, you can check with Pepperjack if you can find him. I was coming to look for him myself, and he's not here.
No, we've got a plan in the works to hopefully find some intelligence on these guys outside, and I don't think I have the time to try to hunt them down.
Well, best I can tell you, I mean, they're
if you see
floating
him,
eyeballs.
Yeah, if you see him, relay that information in case that's important to him, or maybe he didn't know already.
Yeah, I'll let him know.
Thanks.
Yep. He says, "Oh, before you leave, I mean, if you said eyeballs, right? They're not just like they don't just look like eyeballs. They are eyeballs. Like they have pupils. They look like they're.
I mean, they look like eyeballs. I'm not a gynecologist. I don't know what actually. Optometrist. I'm not an optometrist. I don't know exactly if they're fully functioning eyeballs or if they're just floating orbs painted like an eyeball, but that's what they look like.
They were looking like you saw the eye, the actual part of it was looking around.
Oh.
Yeah. Well,
All right.
there's no eyelid, so it didn't blink. But the eye is looking left and right and floating around. And there's a big optic nerve that's hanging out the back of it. It looks like it was ripped out of something's head and just floating around. Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. So I'll yeah. More like if someone ripped a giant pig's head size eyeball out of its head and it's just floating around. No lids.
Out of a larger pig?
Out of a pig the size of maybe like a small hill?
He says, I mean, if it's an eyeball, they're probably scouts of some kind, so just keep that in mind. Maybe avoid their gaze if you can.
Sure. For a few minutes, that's not going to be our plan, but maybe for later.
All right, well, keep safe.
Oh, we'll see. Should be fun. And then I'm gonna go back and join the troops and for our
Alright.
countdown to when we're gonna start this malarkey.
Make a perception check.
My least good check.
Ooh,
Oh wow.
Well, not with a natural 20. He's carrying something under his arm, and he. I would have you roll an insight check as well to see if you noticed anything from it, but just from natural 20 on the perception, he seems a little bit surprised and maybe slightly nervous when you caught him.
Yeah, is everything all right? Is this something we have to be concerned about?
Oh, nothing. Just
Point to that
I've just got to take this to Pepperjack.
All right. Is it something you should all be aware of?
No, just something he asked for.
Ugh. All of you and your secrets. Are you sure you don't want to fill us in? Will it?
I gotta go.
All right. Tell them about the eyeballs.
Be safe, Lehman. And I'm gonna say you make your way. You're probably 3/4 of the way back to the southwest corner before you realize that when you first showed up, he said he didn't know where Pepperjack was, and then he told you that he's taking that to go meet Pepperjack after seeing him shifting.
I just figured he still didn't know where he was. He was just gonna keep finding him.
That could be. I'm just pointing that out for you.
All right.
All right, so you make your way back to the where Norok and Sarah are near the wall. The soldiers are ready to go. You as you walk up, one of the sergeants kind of looks down and taps his wrist as if he's wearing a watch. He's not, but as if he's wearing one. He says,
"What's a watch?"
Watches exist.
Watches, but never heard of like a ball. Okay.
He's never heard of a basketball. That's specific. But anyways, but he taps his wrist. He says, "So we about time here, boss?"
And I'm gonna look at Norok and make sure everyone's ready, and I think we're all ready to go.
I'm gonna use the spyglass to see if I can see any motion or where I think Artemis would be.
Give me a perception check, and I mean, I can tell you its DC is going to be pretty high. It's really dark, and that's really far away.
It really sucks.
Well, you rolled a natural 2. Did you guys see in Discord?
Yeah. Oh boy.
her
She's not
first
gonna make it.
her first check was a fucking natural 1. Like it's just, of course, like it couldn't be anything else. But it was just amusing
All
that
right.
such a critical roll.
So-
Anyway.
So I'm going to signal to yellow shirt guy that we're gonna launch one of the catapults first, and then as soon as the catapult hits, I'm going to cheer and get all the soldiers to stand up and start beating their shields, making a war chant, and then I'm also going to cast Mage Hand to create a small, not Mage Hand, I'm sorry, Minor Illusion, to create about 100 feet out, like a small ball of flames that's swirling about 10 feet up and slowly getting larger and larger over the course of maybe the next 5 minutes. Just something to distract them, so maybe they'll think it's something greater than it is. And then,
Minor illusions range is 30 feet.
30 feet. 30 feet out.
Okay.
Use it to create a ball of fire that gets larger and larger.
Okay.
Fire as I can.
So you're doing that while you're telling them to start banging their shields and make noise?
Yep.
Okay. They stand in ranks. Like as you're getting ready to kind of order this, they all line up and stand in ranks, and start pounding their shields as you begin the incantation for this. The top of the wall has a very low palisade, like a small thing you can duck behind, but it's not tall enough for Norok to get behind, and you are like having to basically duck down. So it's probably only 2 feet tall, maybe 2.5 feet tall. So I mean, if you stood up, your head would be above it still. But you can duck down safely. Norok, you would not be able to hide behind this wall at all. You'll be pretty much wide out in the open. Got it?
Got my random shield propped up, but yeah, I'm not using it yet.
Sure. Well, you can have it prop against the wall and duck behind that. That's fine. But you begin the glowing orb as it's kind of looking like a fireball is what you're trying to emulate.
Basically a growing fireball, something that they might see and get a little nervous about, step away from, catches their eye as it gets larger and larger.
Okay. It doesn't emit heat at all, but it does emit enough light that you can see the kind of the reflection in the very milky eyes of the Albatross beneath it. That are nearby, and they're all kind of scrambling away from it like bugs. Like if you go into like a cockroach-infested hotel or something, and you turn the light on, and they all like disperse type of a thing. You see in like horror movies and stuff. So they all are scrambling away from it as far as they can, and you see the Mortrolis line that's behind them. All are immediately kind of stand still and stand straight up again, whereas they all stand in place, but they're swaying around, and then they're standing perfectly still. The Backlights immediately respond and come up behind them, holding their shields up like the kind of phalanx of the Spartans, essentially, holding shields up, and they start kind of shouting amongst the group there. Give me a performance check. Okay. It seems like they are responding to this. Clearly something's happening. There's no reaction to tell, or no way to tell whether they believe that this is a feint or a real beginning of an attack. But they are responding to the glowing orb there and the noise coming from the soldiers behind you. So,
I think we also fired one grenade or whatever, one bomb out.
Okay, so you had one that launched one. Okay, roll a flat d20 for me.
Do I see any of the Seerdomen within range?
No, not within 120 feet.
Any of the Backlights?
Yeah, the Backlights are definitely within 120 feet. The row of them, the one I was just describing that stand there behind the Mortrolis, are within 120 feet.
Anything super important?
No, they all look the exact same. You have seen you've seen captains and commanders and so on amongst their group, so you can identify them. They usually have the kind of Mohawk style plumage above on their helmets that are bright gold, so they're pretty easy to see, to point out. But there are none within range, though. You can see some further out that are that are clearly taking notice of this is happening. That d20 roll then is you kind of give directions to the two sappers behind you, and one of them is twirling or turning the catapult to the direction that you pointed to, and lets loose, and you hear the screeching sound of something sailing through the air as it goes over the wall and then lands on the inside, and then nothing happens. It just lands it lands amongst the camp in there.
Oh, fucking rain.
Well, you start to chuckle, and then there is an explosion on the far side of a booming sound. You look out. There's no flash. There's no light. There's just an eruption of bodies sailing in all directions. That are just like half of them are destroyed, but basically flinging out in all directions as this bomb goes off amongst the crowd. It didn't land and then explode. It landed and was there for a minute and then blew up. And there was no flash, like the rain might be putting out the fire part of it. But the two guys, the two operators that are running the catapults, fist bump each other and kind of chuckle.
Then, so we're gonna keep up the noise.
Since you guys have started, that was what Fox was waiting for on her side. So you guys can't, don't cheat off of that. But I'm gonna switch over to her because that's what she was waiting for. So
sure.
All right, right back. Fox.
Yep.
All right. So you far to the west of you, you hear a boom, just a loud explosion, and you can't quite see it through the rain. But you kind of there's this like shiver almost of this kind of wave of the air that's going through, and then immediately, as soon as that happens, as soon as that explosion goes off, there's just a roar of soldiers kind of rushing in, and there's fighting sounds coming from the west of you, far to the west though. So that you gather that's probably your cue.
Okay, I'll slowly
Start towards through the group.
Yeah.
Okay. You are still in skill form, right?
Yes.
Okay. You are facing a group of Mortrolis that are facing away from you, and they're in a pretty dense line. There's enough space for you to kind of step between them on this big kind of dinosaur frame that you're walking through, but they're nearly shoulder to shoulder. There's just enough space for you to kind of barely fit between. Go ahead and give me a. Well, I guess, are you doing anything specific, or are you just trying to kind of carefully walk through the middle?
Just carefully walk.
Okay. Go ahead and give me a stealth check. Okay. You being ever so careful to step between them without bumping either side. They are still just kind of standing there swaying in place. They don't seem to have really noticed you, or they're not paying you much attention. There is, you are basically coming into a group of tents that are kind of side by side, kind of similar to the picture that I sent a little bit ago, where the tents are all, that they're aligned a little more diligently, so that they're, all at right angles and everything. And there are backlights all around, but they're starting to kind of move towards the opposite side. They're moving to the northwest, like towards where the explosion and all the noise is, to the northwest.
Okay.
So you're like sneaking carefully between the rows of tents as best you can. You're going to have to pass another group of the other line, basically. Since most of the soldiers have moved away from you, you kind of steer away from them a little bit to pass through the second line of Mortrolis, and then once you're through that, you'll be able to get into the darkened sphere, the foggy sphere.
Okay.
Give me another stealth check if you're going to try to go through the line. Okay. Rolling much better, by the way. You got a 24. At least you're rolling well now.
Yay.
There we go. You, as you're passing through, you see to the left of you, to the west, you see a row of the soldiers of the Becklights that have big drums hanging over their shoulders. And they're not drumming anymore. Like they've kind of stopped that. They're still, the hornblowers are still in the midst of them. But there's basically the noise. The guys that have been making all this noise the entire time are off to the left of you. And this tent that you just passed, they are pulling the tarp off of it. They're like starting to pull the canvas down, like they're breaking the tent down. You can't tell exactly what for just yet, but they are starting to pull the canvas off of this. Give me a perception check. Floating amongst the group here, along those lines, along the Mortrolis lines, you see this orb floating. It's about a foot in diameter, and there's this kind of tail of these twisted cords that are hanging out the back of it. And as it's coming your direction. It's coming like straight towards you along this line of Mortrolis that you've just passed through. And you, as it gets a little bit closer, you kind of turn and you can just barely make out through the rain here that it's an eyeball. It's about a foot in diameter. It's a big floating disembodied eyeball, and the tail that's hanging out the back of it is this visceral cord of optic nerves. And there's rain splashing off of it and dripping down this optic tail into the mud below. But it's coming straight towards you, like looking in your direction, but not necessarily straight at you yet. What are you doing? Okay. It's kind of coming straight at you, and like it's avoiding it. In, I guess how? Like if you move faster, are you trying to, turn? I guess specifically, what are you doing?
I'm just gonna like keep moving at a normal pace, like kind of ignoring it.
At the same pace you were?
Yeah.
Okay. Give me a performance check, because you're trying to kind of pretend to be an Iskil.
This is sad.
Geez, you have 1 third level and 1 first level slot left, and that's it?
Yes.
Okay. You are not confident that that you've done it well, because you don't really know how an Iskil would naturally act. The eyeball stops as it kind of basically as it nears the part where you came through, like the exact spot that you walked through this line of Mortrolis. It stops there and then turns and looks right at you. It's this floating eyeball, floating probably 5 feet off of the ground, like near eye level for where Arteme would be. You're quite a bit taller because you're in Iskil form, but it's looking right at you. What are you doing?
I keep walking.
Okay, you just turn your head and keep walking towards the fog.
Yeah.
Okay. there's a bright flash of light and something it illuminates behind you. You're just running as fast as you can, like full out, like blitzing towards the fog.
Yeah.
All right.
Because I don't think an Isto would just like pay attention to it or whatever because it's just following orders, right? It's resident and following orders.
Could be. But the illumination behind you is very bright, and then you feel heat, like a heat source coming from behind you. Give me a dex save. You just running as fast as you possibly can. The heat source from behind you feel it kind of coming near the tail of the Iskil, and you whip it out of the way just as you dive in through the edge of the fog here, this big dome of fog. As soon as you are in through it, the heat is immediately gone, and you are immediately like in darkness, and the sound is very different all of a sudden. Like the audio of all around you is deafened. The noise. Whoops. After. The noise from the outside seems like it has trouble getting through this wall. You basically, as soon as you've stepped through this, it's like walking through like a curtain of ice crystal, and the sound is kind of echoing through this fog from inside, but it doesn't sound like the sound from outside is getting in here very well. You go ahead and give me a survival check. You can gather, because the DC is pretty low, you can gather that noise made inside here is obviously radiating out much further than normal. So if you make noise in here, it's going to be easier for anything else that's inside here to also hear it. You see more tents ahead of you, and then off to your right, you see a big, looks like the entrance to a big muddy maze. And that's like the area that would be the center of it. Basically, you got tents all the way around, and then this big muddy kind of maze area.
Okay.
And I'll come back to you here in just a second. Just keep in mind you do have that eyeball thing potentially coming near behind you, and then you are kind of in this foggy area here.
Yeah, I'm kind of gonna duck into the maze a bit and just like hide within the wall.
Okay. All right, then I'll come back to you here in just a minute. Yo, everybody here?
Yeah, is Artemis dead yet?
Well, I mean, you guys saw
you
what
don't have to say if it's going to ruin anything.
She had a handful of rolls that were in the tower as well, and some were better than others, I guess is how I'll say that.
All right.
She managed to pull off one more natural one so far.
So that all happened at the same time. So
yeah.
We're going to, let's see on our side, I'm guessing we're continuing, and after about a minute or two, I'd say a minute, we're going to launch another bomb more further to the, if basically to the opposite circle of whatever we just shot the bomb to. So,
okay.
Similar method, but another slightly different direction.
Give me perception checks on anybody that's looking out, and Becky, use yours with advantage for using the spyglass.
Oops. Should have done it in the tower.
All right, Norok, it's so rainy and it's just splashing you in the eyes. You're having trouble like making out much in the distance. Sarah, you dropped a 2 and rolled a 12, so thanks for that advantage helped out. But Pogo, between Pogo and Sarah, you guys can see that the rows of tents in the middle, not the first block, not the first kind of square in front of you, but the one right behind that. The backlights that are in the middle of those. There's one big tent in the center and then smaller tents around it. And the backlights that are in those, the human soldiers that are in the middle, are striking those tents. They're starting to pull the canvas down from these giant tents in the middle.
Ooh. If Pogo sees that, he's going to want to aim for that if he can tell them the rough distance for the catapult, because that's clearly going to be a catapult of some form. Okay.
Well, let's see. Norok for sure. Give me a dex save, and Pogo, you're enough behind it. You're probably okay. Just Norak, give me a dex save, please.
Can I see this coming, or is it?
It's too dark. You probably, especially not with that perception roll.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where's Sarah at?
Sarah is still standing on the wall, trying to get a decent vantage point for sight towards where Arteme would be.
Okay. An arrow whizzes by your head, G. It goes sailing over, and it lands in the camp behind you. You can't tell if it hit anybody or not, but it lands basically inside Dunskathak. But it was maybe a foot away from hitting you in the head. So you guys, Pogo, you directing the sappers to aim towards where this tent is?
Yep. So I'm gonna do my best to tell them yell at them a general distance and direction. See if they can get towards that tent.
Okay. You give the best kind of aim that you possibly can. Go ahead and give me a intelligence check.
Since I don't see any like higher ranking backlights, and you said some of them are 120 feet, right?
There are backlights that are within 120 feet of you. They've basically put shields up like phalanx.
Okay.
But you do see some commanders. They're just further back. In fact, actually, one of them is pulling off the large canvas tent.
Right,
What's that?
Dancing lights, like right in front of some of the backlight spaces. That's about
Okay.
all I have for distraction-wise.
Okay. There is a row of archers that are right
front.
behind. Okay, there's a row of archers that are right behind the phalanx, basically, and those are the ones that started firing, arrows into the camp. So
Within 120?
yeah.
Okay, then I'm just going to pick 4 random ones and just a dancing light directly in front of 4
Okay.
places.
Let's see. Give me maybe an intelligence check, I guess. Okay. You can easily kind of put it right in front of them, and you see them, kind of throw knock release the bow, not release an arrow, but release a string, so they're not pulling it back anymore, and start trying to bat at it, trying to knock it away. And you can basically move them along the lines enough to blind them. As soon as you've blinded one, it will be kind of impacted by that for a matter of 30 seconds or something. So you might be able to move them back and forth, at least if you chose to do so, to keep the archers from being able to fire at you.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Okay.
How far away are those catapults? Can I tell? Or the whatever was pulling them
The
off the
tents,
sheet?
they're probably 150 yards back.
Okay, so pretty
Quite
far.
a ways. They're about the max range that these catapults will be able to go. You give the description to the 2 sappers though, and they've rotated one catapult. The second one is still sitting unused. Basically, they're basically got it for a backup in case this one breaks.
Sure.
The guy, one of the sappers, shouts up to you, says, "Hey, you ready to fire this one, boss?"
Yep. Unleash hell!
You hear the creaking of the thing snapping behind you. The catapult kind of lifts up off the ground and it snaps back into place with the force of this launch. And you see that this big, it's probably okay. So I said basketball size for the eyeballs. This is probably like those big ass. What were those big ass? Like, it wasn't kickball. Was it kickball? What was the giant ones that are like 3 feet in diameter? Used to use in gym class,
Like
and
a
like
yoga ball?
The red ball.
kind of like that, like a not a medicine ball, a core ball in a gym. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Those
it's the ones where for some reason when you kick them at someone, it like has the force to just knock them on their ass.
Yeah, but they also like bounce back at you a
Yeah.
little bit, like there's some reverberation. So, anyways, that's about that size. Though, goes launching over. Similarly, again, it lands. It kind of tears through the middle of this tent, and when it pulls the tent away, give me perception checks for, I guess, all 3 of you again with advantage on Sarah. Sarah, with the spyglass, you see where this bomb landed. It doesn't rip the canvas, but it pulls the canvas away from the soldiers as they were trying to pull it off. You realize that was not a camp tent. Beneath this canvas sheet being pulled over was this hulking, gargantuan, dead thing that was not moving. It's only beginning to stir now, and just now you see a Sirduin that is standing nearby that is illuminated by these kind of telltale blue glow of arcane glyph writing. And this dead giant begins to stir and rise first to one knee, and then it starts to stand tall, and just then the bomb explodes. It just explodes behind it, pushing it, kind of knocks it forward. It goes landing face first into the mud and crushing, who knows, maybe 6 or 8 soldiers beneath it as it kind of falls forward onto its face, blasted. The bomb went off behind it as it kind of landed through it. It's still like stirring. It's kind of beginning to stand itself back up again. But it is must be one of the giants that Pepperjack had described earlier. You can see that there's at least 3 others, for a total of 4, that are within kind of your visual range. That you can see these big tents where they're pulling these off, and you see these other giants beginning to stand up.
I'm going to immediately tell one of the soldiers next to me to go tell Pepperjack that the larger tents all have giants in them. As fast as he can. I want him to know that information.
The sergeant relays that to one of the soldiers. One of the soldiers throws his shield up over its head, and he begins running backwards into the camp. And I will come back to you guys in just a second.
Cool.
Okay, I'm back. You there?
Yep.
All right, so you just heard more explosion, another huge explosion off to the northwest. You are inside the kind of maze area. It's kind of odd. It's not usually you're used to seeing mazes where everything is at right angles, right? Where it's you go straight ahead and there'd be a direct, like a hard left 90 degrees or a right 90 degrees and so on. These actually spiral in a little ways. You see the kind of the walls kind of spiral around. But you're in the beginnings of what looks like this maze kind of area, this muddy maze. There's no roof. There's rain still coming down. Basically, these walls. What are you doing?
I'm gonna try and look again and drop this thing off.
Okay. Then you keep following, back through this, and it keeps spiraling left and left and left. It's like it's not. There are no branches so far. It's basically you're just following this like long corridor, really, with no roof of it just kind of spiraling slowly left and left and left. And as you get further and further in, it actually begins to get more and more sharp. The curves it's almost like a big coil, like you're walking in the inside of a big coil. And then you do find an open area, and as soon as you come to this one open area, there's basically you come around this coil into this like open area, and then you can see that there's 2 more entrances in front of you that look similarly like they coil. One curves to the right, one curves to the left. Where are you going? Or you can go back.
As an if skill, I guess I don't really have good senses now.
I guess in what sense? What are you trying to sense?
Well, do I have like anything for hearing, smell?
No. In fact, you probably have no sense of smell at all. And your hearing would probably be normal. Hearing and sight would be normal.
Okay, so I'm just gonna bring the path done and follow that.
Okay. Then you take the one to the right and follow it backwards, continuing to just kind of coil and coil and coil until it comes all the way, like it basically keeps getting tighter and tighter, these coils, until it finally stops. And you can see that as soon as you come around this corner, you'll be at the end of this. And sure enough, as soon as you turn around this, you are face to face with one of these giant Amoras. It is staring you straight. Its eyes are closed, but it is like you realize then that these 15-foot tall walls are the coils of these giant creatures. It sleeps in a big coil like a centipede might, and you basically have just been walking amongst between the coils of its body, and it's laying there sleeping. You're in the middle of coiled, like think of like a snake coiled up, where there's a little bit of space between the coils, and you're walking in that space until you're right in front of its face and it's asleep.
Okay, I'm just gonna drop.
Drop what? The beacon?
Yeah, and then slowly, quietly move.
Okay. Give me a stealth check. you kind of shake your back as best you can and just like ruffle it off, trying to loosen one of the beacons until it falls. You feel one kind of the weight of one lift off of you and then splatter into the mud.
Okay. I'm just slowly going back up.
How do you manage this? I'm not even kidding. One of your other rolls earlier, one of your other rolls like during the middle there was another natural 2. That's 3 natural ones in this so far.
I have no idea. Ask the game.
Oh, that's insane. Hang on. That is, I'm keeping track of all your successes and fails so far. This is insane. Okay. You drop this, it splats in the mud, and the eyes immediately spring open in front of you. And we'll come back to you in just a second. Okay?
Okay.
I'll be right back. Oh man. Oh, this is not going well. Right.
The back of me could be right back.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh shit. Did you guys see that in Discord?
Yeah, at first I thought you reposted the same one, and I was like,
No.
oh, that's different.
No, that's another one. That's 3 so far. 3 natural ones.
Oh,
Yeah. So, by the way, so you guys understand, like a ball. I'll just wait to explain until Justin gets back. But it's not going so good.
Well, darn.
So she got another natural one. I put it in Discord there. That's 3 now that she's gotten. How these generally work, these are called skill checks. They're not apparently used in 5e normally. It's something that comes from an earlier version. But some, like Matt Colville and some other YouTubers suggested this is a good idea, so I tried using it. Basically, it's a certain number of successes before a certain number of failures. Whichever you get first is what decides whether something succeeds or fails. So, like multiple different checks throughout it, different skill checks and so on. But if she gets to 4 failures before she gets to 4 successes, that's bad news. She's at 3 failures. So,
Oh, wow.
yeah, she's at 2 successes, I think. Hang on, 1.
Oh, so
Yeah,
she at
she's
least
at 2
has. Okay, so it's not 3 failures and no successes.
No, she's at 2 successes and 3 failures right now.
Ooh, this is like the NBA Finals.
So, anyways, so that's where you guys left off. What are you guys doing?
So I think we're going to shoot one more. Now that I see what's under that tent, did we notice? Is that the only tent seemingly being opened right now?
No, there's 4 total.
Oh, and they're all being opened.
Yeah, they're like the soldiers are pulling the largest, the biggest tents were these giants that were just laying down in the mud with these tents over them, trying to
So
hide
they're
them.
at least like 300 feet away.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell the explosive guys as soon as I see that. I'm not waiting the extra minute. I'm going to tell them to drop the distance by about 15, 20 feet, maybe 25 feet, and shoot the exact same spot that they were shooting. So I'm going to try to have them do that. And I'm also going to tell all the soldiers that when I do a countdown, when I'm done with the countdown, we're going to go silent. And we're going to drop back behind the wall.
Sergeant says copy that, and then the sappers are loading up the catapult to fire again. But to clarify, then you're trying to aim it in the same direction, just closer, just half the distance.
Well, did I see the giant? Because I assume if we're shooting out, the tent was facing kind of towards us, and if it blew up behind the giant and knocked him forward, do I have the angle right?
It went through it would have hit the canvas perfect. Your roll was fine. It would have hit the canvas just spot on. It's just that as they were pulling the canvas away, it kind of ripped the canvas out of their hands and blew up, rolled through the dirt behind them, and then blew up. And that's why basically it would have hit the giant if they hadn't been moving the canvas.
I don't think I know how big a giant is.
Well, now that they're standing up, they're towering 25 to 30 feet over the creatures around them, so they're probably 35 feet.
Okay. And that one that we knocked down is standing up at this point?
Yeah, he's standing back up. The other 3 are already standing, and they're reaching down and they're pulling something out of the ground, and it looks like they're about to throw them at you.
We're going to fire that Oh shit. Yeah, we're gonna fire one more, and then I'm going to tell everyone to go silent and drop behind the wall, and I'm gonna also tell yell to Sarah and Norok that we're going to stop on this. Like we're going to go back behind the wall, and I'm also going to drop minor illusion as soon as the bomb hits where it's going to hit.
Okay. What's Norok doing? You've had a minute and a half. Like no, it was a minute apart. So you've had like 2.5 minutes so far. So what have you been doing?
Tossing bodies.
Okay. All right. Well, you've probably it doesn't take you that long to throw these over, so you're just throwing them as far as you can. Like into the Albashar? Okay.
Yeah, seeing if I can actually hit him for the fun of it, but just distracting me either way, but seeing if I can actually hit him with bodies for the sport.
Okay, so for the sport of it, just trying to hit them with...
Right.
Go ahead, just for the fun of it, give me 3, just roll 3 d20s, 3 flat d20s. One and then the next and the next. What's that?
These giants, are they the same ones that like my 80 had, or are these...
No. Those are only 8 feet tall, 8 to 10 feet tall. These are like between 35 to 40 feet tall.
That was the one.
These are building sized, like a good size, like a 3-story building height. In fact, they're a little bit shorter than the ones you guys saw in the ocean. Do you remember when you guys saw that tiny island and there were 3 of them out there chanting?
Yeah.
They're a little bit smaller than them, not by a whole lot. With your kind of effort of sport, though, you grabbing it and then shot put style, a hammer throw style, like spinning in place and then releasing. It goes. One of the bodies goes flinging end over end over end, and just barrels through a group of Albashar. These are just like pitiful peasants that have been forced into this, by the way. So you should feel bad on some level, but it does bowl through them like bowling, like knocking them backwards. Just crashing through them, but they immediately, those that aren't, knocked down like under this and not able to move, immediately just spring on top of it like a zombie movie that's beginning to tear it apart. For any amount of flesh they can manage to grab. But the 3 that have stood one is aiming at the biggest thing that it can see along the wall, which is Norok. So all 3 of you give me, because I mean the thing that it's throwing is bigger than all 3 of you. So all of you give me dex saves, beat it at 16. Norok, you're at disadvantage because you're too big. Which I think makes it a flat roll for you.
Can I use bountiful luck with her?
Well, she has her own. She has her own, actually, too. She can't use it for other people like you can, but she has her own. And I think it does work for saves, right?
I believe so. I think it's ability checks and saves.
Okay.
Double check.
Yeah, ability check, saving throw, or attack roll for me.
Cool. Yeah, it's the same. So, go ahead and re-roll it for Sarah. I'm going to tell you this is a brutal hit. So, all right. The 3 of you standing on the wall there, Sarah and Pogo, you just duck down as best you can, and Norok, you get hit square in the chest. Like it's this chunk of mud and rock is about your height, but it just barrels you backwards. It's like being hit by a fucking like a freight train. It is. You're not gonna like this.
Whoa!
You're not raging. So 42 damage as it goes careening you off of the wall. You go flinging. Roll 2d20 for me, G.
Oh my god, are you still up?
They may not be after this. After the next part. Okay, you go careening 52 feet off of the wall and down, which is the wall's 12 feet tall. So you go, and your own height is off of that as well. So you go sailing 50 feet backwards over the heads of the 39 soldiers that are still behind you, and then just crash into the mud behind with this boulder on top of you. This slick boulder of mud. Like he literally just dug a chunk of earth and threw it at you. So it's like rain and rock and everything, mud and rock and everything from below it. The falling damage is a d10 for each one, which is another 5. Well, yeah, you're definitely down, G. It was, so I didn't apply it to you yet. It was 42 damage from the initial hit, and 43 because he rolled higher from the falling damage of being hit by this. It's basically you're knocked unconscious as this boulder crushes you into the dirt. If you were raging, you would have made it, but it is definitely enough to knock you unconscious otherwise. So
the one time The one time there's no rage.
For real, not even kidding. I think this is like maybe the second time Norak's ever been knocked unconscious.
I haven't been knocked out yet.
Yeah, so
It was almost down when we got attacked by the first one.
Yeah,
Okay.
because the skill didn't quite kill me.
oh, that's right.
What's
Yeah,
his name?
yeah,
Almost.
bit you over your
Right.
head. Yeah, yep. But you are under, like pinned beneath this giant boulder of mud, and in fact, because. Okay, so we'll need to handle the death saves and everything, assuming because they have to get you out from under there, or you have to get out from under it somehow. So we'll come back to that, but we're not in the combat tracker necessarily. So depending on what you guys want to do, but we'll have to be handling that.
Well, after seeing that, Pogo probably ducking from that is going
Yeah,
to
you're
get
ducked under your shield.
all the soldiers that are hopefully still fucking there off the wall and retreat. And he's going to drop
They're not
minor
on the wall.
illusion.
They're
Oh,
around
okay.
the catapults on the ground below.
All right.
They were banging their shields, making noise from like.
Oh,
close by, basically.
got it. Okay, yeah. I'm getting the fuck down off this wall.
Okay.
I couldn't go fast enough. I'm dropping minor illusion. Actually, I'm going to drop down the wall. Then I'm going to make a minor illusion of like a sad face. Like right above the wall.
like an emoji.
Like a, yeah, emoji of a sad face with a little tear underneath the eye.
All right, they're the other two that we're throwing at that same time.
And all the soldiers going quiet.
Okay, you shout that out to them. They all kind of duck down, but under their shields and go quiet. The two sergeants look back at their crews, and then he just points. The leader of the two sergeants points at the boulder that has got Norak pinned underneath it. He points at them, and he kind of separates a group of his and points over there. And 10 of the soldiers rush over there to go start trying to pull this boulder off of Norak. So there were 3 giants that threw rocks. The 4th one is the one you guys bombed already. He tried to stand up, and he hadn't thrown anything yet. The other 2 threw them, and as basically right after this one hits and knocks Norak down, and you start rushing off of the wall, Sarah and Pogo, you hear the wall just explode off to the east of you, which is actually near where they broke through earlier in the day, and you guys were at, like almost at that same spot. The boulder just rips through the wall, just kind of explodes that wall out into shrapnel of all these broken timbers and wood and everything, logs and everything that were there. And then another spot to the north of you, a little ways, is also thrown open. And there's just a rushing in of the Albashar trying to just pour through like a flood. We'll come back to you guys in just a second. I almost dragged Justin down there. Okay, you there, Fox?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So where we left off, the Almora rather, that just in front of you, when you were shaking the beacon off of your back, you accidentally scraped your tail against the inside of the coil of this thing. And now realizing what it is, you see that it's not scaled, but it's basically coruscating lines of the rings of this thing, almost snake-like, of its body. But its eyes snap open, and it kind of the nostrils flare, looking at you like a giant snake almost, looking right in your face. It's 15 feet tall, right at you, and the eyes kind of narrow at you. You know what snake eyes look like, right? The kind of slit eyes.
Yes.
They kind of fixate on you, and it shakes its head left and right like it's confused for a second, and it's starting to lift up. What are you doing?
I'm kind of gonna give it like a cursory glance and back.
Like back away running, or just slowly back away from it like you belong there? Okay. Give me a performance check. Its nostrils flare wide, and it kind of, you can tell that it's like sniffing the air a little bit, and then its jaws open a little bit, and you see a very long forked tongue kind of snap out and like it kind of smacks you in the nose and then pulls away, and it's just shaking its head a little bit and like looking at you. It seems confused.
Okay, I'm just gonna gently walk away and be very careful and walk ahead.
Okay. At this point, you hear two loud explosions to the northwest, and fighting is getting very loud. It's far away. It's so far away that through this fog, you can't really tell. It's hard to tell distance because it sounds like it's coming from all around you. Just the way that the fog is like dispersing the sound. But it is. It's clear that some fighting has started. You just can't really tell quite what. What are you doing?
I'm gonna try and get out of its line of sight for now.
Okay. It's still coiled on the ground, so you can just turn around and go back around the same route that you came.
Okay, I'll do that.
Okay. Then you head out the same kind of spiral, making your way back out. You're still inside this giant fog, and you're hearing the echoing sounds of those booms coming from around you. As soon as you exit the coil area, the kind of the one that you were in, you can see the other two that were nearby, and now that you recognize what this shape is, you can tell that that's two other Amoras that are nearby. You basically have walked through two of them, like the inside of two of them. So, are you leaving the roost area where these guys are napping like this? What are you doing?
Yeah, I'm just gently gonna move out of it without if
Okay.
possible.
As soon as you step back, basically kind of retracing your steps to leave this area, you are immediately, like as soon as you step out of it, back towards where those camps or where the tents were, the ones that you saw earlier, still inside of the foggy area. You see a tall, bald, looks like a Seardaman, but the robes are very dark, much darker than earlier. In fact, the skin seems maybe even a little bit more pale, facing away from you. But it's a little bit. This person's a little bit taller than you're used to seeing the Seardaman, and the robes are much darker.
Okay.
Doesn't appear to have noticed you, but it's facing away from you.
Okay, I'm gonna move back into the coils for a sec.
Okay. Like, how far are you going? Are you watching? What are you doing?
Yeah, I'm just like watching, like, to not wake up the other Amora, and just to like make sure he doesn't see me, and that.
Okay. The one in front of you turns. The Seardaman in front of you turns and go ahead and give me a stealth check. I'm trying to find this part in my notes, but I know I wrote it down, but I'm looking for it now and I don't see it. There it is. Hey, that's good news.
I was holding my breath for a second.
I didn't tell you exactly. I'll just put it this way: you were very close to catastrophe so far, but your rolls have gotten, at least this time since I've switched back, you've rolled a little better at least so far. Your performance was a 15, and that stealth was a 26. So much better now. Like if you'd gotten one more natural one, it'd be pretty catastrophic for you. Anyways, this Seardaman turns though, and you see. Go ahead and give me an intelligence check as well. Lightning flashes above, and it kind of illuminates this entire globe around you, right? Because the fog of this thing, basically, if there's a light source, it just illuminates an entire area because it's just kind of dissipated into this fog, right? So there's a lightning flash above, and in this flash, you see as this Seardaman has turned. You get like a quick glance of its face, and you can see its left eye is glimmering brightly, and then you realize that it's been replaced with a gem. That there's not an eye, that like the eye socket's empty, and there's a gem inside the eye instead, and it like the light reflected off of the gem, like a faceted, cut gem. So, anyways, but you see that, but the Seardaman doesn't see. Oh, by the way, with that intelligence check, you gather this is probably an Erdaman.
Okay.
So what Pepperjack had told you that Seardaman are the kind of the darker or the red robe ones, rather the ones that you've seen. This robe is so red it's nearly black, and in fact it probably looks black with gold trim because it's so dark in here. But with this eye change, the slightly paler skin seems to be a little bit more elongated and taller. You gather this is probably an Erdaman, is your guess. They also told you, by the way, that that's what Ozzy is. That Pepperjack told you that Ozzy is an Erdaman as well. So, anyways, keep that in mind. But you see this Erdeman walk away. It doesn't seem to have noticed you at all, and it's walking into the midst of where these Amoras are, like out into the middle area. What are you doing?
There's no one else around.
It looks to be. Go ahead and give me a perception check. Okay. Looking around, you swing your big kind of zombie dinosaur head left and right. You don't see anyone else. You do see the Erdeman is not out of sight. He's just walking away from you. He's going the other way. But it's like the sound echoes in here, and you can hear his footsteps kind of through the mud until he's a little bit farther away, and then you don't hear the footsteps anymore. You can still see him, and if he were to turn around, he'd see you.
Okay, I'm just gonna back in.
Okay. How long are you just waiting there?
Yeah, I'm gonna wait a bit to see what he does.
Okay.
I haven't really gathered any intel, but this is getting kind of...
Well, you did see tents that were, like, when you first came in, you passed the tents to go into this maze area, which ended up being this roost where all the Amora are.
Okay.
The Seerdom, or the Erdeman rather, has passed far enough that you don't see him anymore when you peek around the corner.
Okay.
What are you doing?
Thinking.
Alright, well, give it a sec, think on where you're going to go, and I'll come back in a second, okay?
Okay.
It's pretty much like you can go back to where the tents are, but you'd have to pass them to leave anyways. So you could either leave the foggy area, or you can go to the tents. You did hear, like, there's people in the tents, so you can, like, that there's people there, but you can, scout it or whatever, so I'll come back to you in just a minute.
That's what I'm trying to figure out, how to scout it.
Gotcha. Okay. Then I'll come back to you in just a second.
Okay.
Alright.
I think they do 2 or 3 sets, just staying there that time.
Okay.
Not work.
Pretty much, it's my assumption. They do look like they don't work. Like
Yeah.
I've never gone to a local comedy spot and been like, yeah, these guys have jobs.
Yeah.
Wait, so, okay. When you ask don't work as in the sense that they don't work as comedians, or they don't work like they have a day job?
Like, they have a day job and it's probably like a weed delivery guy. Like, that's
like
probably...
those billboards for that Ease or whatever that is, that company?
Yeah, it's like 3 hours a day,
Mhm.
and then most of the time is filled with naps.
That's a good schedule.
Yeah. I mean, I wish, I truly wish that I could just fucking say, fuck it, and just not have a job, sleep in, eat pancakes.
Alright, so, Norok is buried beneath a rock. Soldiers Albashar rather, are pouring through 2 different breaches in the wall. You hear shouts from the Crowblinders, of course, in the set. Oh shit! Sorry, that's one of the sounds from where Fox is. Not where you guys are.
Spoilers!
There we go. All right, and the Crowblinders, of course, from all around are pouring this direction. You see them just Pogo and Sarah from running down the steps, looking to the north, like past where Norok is buried under a rock. You see Crowblinders just pouring around the outsides of the mess hall and all the kind of buildings and tents in the center, coming this direction to try to stop the flow of Albashar pouring through. Well, you guys aren't above the wall, so you can't see what's going on out there. What are you guys doing?
I'm running up to Norok and using the ring of healing surges.
You can't even see him.
I can't see like any part of him because it's
He's-
just a touch.
Yeah, but he's under a boulder that is bigger than him of mud. It's almost like he's buried under like 3 feet of mud because it's like splattered out around him and splashed him into the dirt. But the soldiers, there's 5 on either side of him, are like digging with their hands, just pouring out these handfuls of mud, throwing it left and right. Norok, give me a death save.
Alright, then I'm gonna help them dig, and as soon as I
Can Bardic Inspiration be used on a death save?
That is a good question. Sarah is digging with her hands. Digging through
So
the mud
it's
with her
a-
hands.
Ability check, attack, saving.
Oops. I did too high.
Right.
I double clicked it.
Yeah,
Let's
it
see.
doesn't. It's
Well,
only
the first
on-
one's the one we're going to use, G. We always take the first roll, of course. So you have one fail, and that's it so far.
Okay.
So go ahead.
You do
What's that?
have mage hand.
Okay, that's certainly on brand. I was just curious if she's panicked enough to be trying to actually dig out with one hand,
Well,
or with,
I'm
with an
gonna
actual hand.
grab like that shield that I had. I'm gonna try to use it like a shovel to help
Okay.
shovel out away from Norak, and then I might as well use Mage Hand to also get as much away from where I think Norak's big freaking head
The
is.
mage hand isn't a third hand. It basically mimics
No.
one of your hands.
It can hold up to 10 pounds. Oh, it mimics one of my hands. All right, never mind.
So if you're
I'm gonna be
one-handed
using the
digging with the
shield.
shield, okay, all right.
To get that off of Norak.
Then Sarah is just digging with the mage hand because she won't get herself dirty, even to save Norak.
And yeah.
That's fair. Let's see. Can Bardic Inspiration be used on a death save?
It doesn't say it on here. It says.
Well, so Jeremy Crawford, who's one of the game designers, he says
Sure.
a death saving throw is indeed a saving throw. If all saves are affected by a thing, death saves are affected.
Oh, in
So
that
if you can
case,
use it on death saves, then yes, but you have to be able to. You have to.
got-
see-
no, he's just got to be able to hear me.
Okay, well he's unconscious.
Oh, so that would be why it wouldn't work.
Yeah, so that wouldn't help in this case.
You could have it if I had already given it to him.
Yeah, I would say that's fair.
Okay.
Ben Sako just asked a question in your channel.
Okay.
Oh no, yes, in the general channel. So, anyways, give me for Pogo and Sarah. Give me Dex checks, just for how quickly, or strength, either way. Well, probably Dex are gonna be better for you guys for how much you can dig out. Okay. Yeah, you guys are scrambling away at it as best you can. Norak, give me another death save. The soldiers, thankfully, let's roll something in here. Oh, natural 20. And a 19. I can roll really well, guys.
Good job, buddy.
That's another success. There's one that sucked. The soldiers are like they're professionals at digging
Trenches.
trenches, exactly.
This is why we do the drills, boys. As I just do nothing.
Well, you're trying. You're digging away with a shield. You're doing a lot of effort, but they've managed to pull around the outside of it pretty successfully. Like they're almost to Norak. Like you can tell that basically the space around them, they're getting like through most of where this is. They just haven't found him yet. It's like digging through. It's like digging for a very fat needle in a haystack. You know, there's you can tell that there's only a certain amount of space he can be. Go ahead and give me one more death save, G. Okay. This is as 6 seconds are passing. You can imagine how much time it takes to dig out this much earth in 6 seconds. All right. Is that one fail, 2 successes?
Yeah.
Okay. So still digging away. You hear from the other side of you, Sarah and Pogo. You guys are on the left side. You hear one of the soldiers on the other side say, "I've got his hand. I've got his hand." On the other side, and he's still digging away at it.
I'm gonna run over you. Bring us one.
You climbing over, Norak? Climbing over the pile.
Can I get around it with enough movement?
It's gonna take you longer, sure.
Can I do it in one turn?
Yeah, fine. I was gonna say if you climb over him, then save you stepping on Norak's dead body or unconscious body. Yeah, you rush around though, and sure enough, there's a muddy hand sticking out of this pile of mud.
Well, I wasn't thinking about stepping on it. I was just not wanting to step in mud.
Oh, well, that's fine too.
Alright.
Norak doesn't need oxygen, right? Is that a thing?
I mean, if you make him conscious and he's buried, he might be able to just stand up through it, but he is buried alive.
Exactly. I've got 2 surges, so we're gonna use one. And
Okay.
We can use a hit die to bring him
Alright.
back up.
Okay, go ahead, G. It's funny. Fox can see that Norak is rolling death saves and everything, but she doesn't know what's going on. Like it's kind of like it sucks, Like the downside of being one DM splitting the party like this is having the little breaks in between and so on. But it's kind of fun that you guys don't know what's going on with her, and you guys don't. She doesn't know what's going on with you guys. So that's kind of fun.
This is the first. Do you guys not really split the party very often?
We have a few times. We did a few times in balance, but it was usually pretty short and not really in such hectic situations.
Sure.
There were a handful of times, yeah, just not so much in Embers. Usually they stick together. Well, shit, G, rolled max too. Eyes kind of try to snap open, and you are immediately suffocating beneath this mountain of dirt. You remember exactly what happened, but you are underneath of probably a few 100 pounds of mud. What are you doing?
Try to start moving my way up as much as I can. Try to
Okay.
get my face out.
You can feel digging on either side of you, left and right, and now that you feel more coming from above your head, because as soon as they recognize where the hand was, now they know where your head is. So they're coming from like above your head. You're wiggling back and forth the way that you might if you were like in quicksand, like how you're surrounded by it, trying to just make room for your, or the way that they tell you to do if you're ever in an avalanche, right? We got to make space for you, and you're trying to do that. Go ahead and give me 2 athletics checks. Okay, because you can actually hold your breath for, I think it's 1 minute plus your concentration modifier, which for you would be a total of 3 minutes. So you have like plenty of time basically that you're like kind of holding your breath and flailing yourself back and forth. You can feel rain splashing against your left hand that's sticking out, and you kind of are using that to kind of just smash it with your elbows, pushing it back and forth. You realize that you're actually like starting to pack the mud, making it harder a little bit. But the digging keeps kind of getting closer and closer until there's this kind of somehow brighter. It's still dark outside, but this kind of flash of light as they kind of expose the top of your head and your eyes. Your mouth is still covered until they're digging away, trying to pull the mud away from you. You're still choking on a mouthful of mud, but you are alive and conscious and still buried under a couple 100 pounds of mud. All right, we'll come back to you guys in just a second. I'm gonna switch back over to Fox. Okay, I'm back.
Oh,
All right. Oh, let me. I keep having to switch the sound back and forth for like when I switched over there. I forgot to switch it, so they still had the sounds of the Amora. These noises from the Amora. I don't know if you can hear them quite right, but them sleeping. There's like these kind of groaning sounds from them sleeping. So, anyways, I accidentally left it on that time. What are you doing?
I'm just like gonna casually try and off-road.
Okay. Go ahead and give me. Go ahead.
And go near one of the tents and like just to see if I can overhear anything naturally, and then just walk.
Give me a stealth check. Oh shit, I didn't see your roll, sorry. As you get near the tents, you can hear what sounds like screaming coming from... There's a tent that you're close to, and then there's another one on the opposite side of that. And there's screams. It sounds like somebody being tortured maybe, or at least probably multiple people. You at least hear a man that is screaming on the other side of this. But the tent that you're nearest to, you can see there's a light on the inside of the tent, like there's a lantern or something in the middle of it. But it's inside the tent, and you can't see these people until you kind of have moved around near the side of the tent, and you can see an open flap. And it's not completely open, but it's open enough that you can see inside. But there's 2 people in there. You see a Becklite man and a female commander. She's got a tall golden mohawk style fringe along her. She's got her helmet under her shoulder, or under her arm rather. But you can see that has the tall golden mohawk style fringe along it, so you assume she's a commander. And they're talking, and it's echoing through this fog. So you don't even need to be close because of how loudly everything echoes in this through the fog here. The soldier says, "Commander, we've captured 2 more halflings near the wall." And the commander says, "Crowblinders?" And the soldier says, "No, sir. Both match the description, but they refuse to talk." And she says, "Take them to Afotep. He'll loosen their tongues."
Okay.
There you go.
And I'm guessing that's gonna be the other tent where the screams are coming.
You don't know. Maybe. Like you, I mean, I would say that you probably can intuit that might refer what she's referring to. What are you doing?
Are.
It's basically right next to the tent that you're already in, but it's big. It's a really big tent.
Okay. So they captured them, but they're not here yet.
That's the impression that you got. Yeah, that we've I pasted it into Fantasy Grounds so you can see exactly what they said.
Okay. Can I guess which direction they'd be coming?
There really isn't any context clues in there for you to have any idea. Like there just isn't much in there. Like
But I know
what
which
they
wall
said.
I know which wall they were gonna be at, right?
Where the rest of the party is, you mean?
Yeah, I know which wall they were gonna be doing the diversion from.
Yeah, but what I mean is you don't have any way of knowing from what the soldier and the commander were saying what direction they came from, or what direction that the soldier was referring to. And they are about to exit the tent. They're like coming straight. No, they're coming out of the tent, and you're like near where that flap is, where they're going to come out from.
Okay, I'm gonna keep walking.
Okay. Just like pretending everything's normal.
Yes.
Go ahead and give me another performance check.
I'm terrified every time I have to do that.
Well, you should be, because you rolled a 3. So the good news is that your walking speed, because the speed of these things is already 50 feet, so with Longstrider on top of it at 60 feet, you are pretty far away, like by the time you hear the flap open. You saw them walking towards the flap and when you started moving, but you're able to get far enough, or hopefully far enough away, that you're not sure if they're going to see you. So they're going to take it, they're going to look around when they come out of the tent. But they have disadvantage for spotting you because of your Cloak of Velvet kind, right? Is that what that was?
Yes.
Let's see. I'm pretty sure it was anybody trying to perceive you, right? Yeah, so perception checks made to see you have disadvantage, and then you have advantage when you're trying to hide. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. His wisdom is... Okay. You hear them step out of the tent, and their feet are kind of moving through the mud. And you don't hear any, like, basically you just hear them walking away from the tent. They don't seem, if they have noticed you, they haven't given you any indication of that.
Okay.
You're walking towards the other tent?
Yeah.
Okay. Then I will come back to you here in just a second. I should have probably, I don't know, there may be a better way to do this. Usually what you would do, I'll explain this at the end of the game too. Usually what you would do in person is you would have different, like one group would get up and leave the room and then come back, but this is kind of the digital version of that. So I hope you're not too bored. I'm sorry for killing your time between them.
No, it's fine. I'm just doing a bit of research while I wait.
Okay.
Also, I thought of something else that I should have probably done as a second escape route, and I thought of too late. I'm like, oh shit, that would have been a good thing for an escape route, and I just thought of it now.
Something that you should have planned ahead of time for?
Well, it would have been to study an animal that could burrow underground, so I could just burrow underground and then
especially with it muddy, yeah.
and then hide there, and then just like get back into that. That would have been like, I'm like, why do it too much? Why do it after? Like, I've been thinking of it all week, and I just thought of it now.
You know, there isn't a limitation on druids for burrowing speed. It's only for swim speeds and fly speeds, which you get at level 8. Like you have swim speeds now, but you can get flying speeds at level 8, so 2 more levels.
Yeah.
You'll be able to fly as a bird. But there isn't any limitation on burrowing speeds, actually. So, like, you basically from level 1, you would have been able to have a creature that could burrow through the ground.
And
And
I
you've
didn't think
seen
of
a
that
couple.
till now.
Yeah,
Which is
that's a good idea. It could come up in the future, so that's a handy one to
I'm
keep in
definitely
mind.
going to be studying one.
All right, I'll be back in a minute.
Creatures play what they can do, what they're good at doing.
Okay.
Okay. Just so you know, we can see that written thing and on that.
I know.
Okay.
I could have sent it
can't.
to I would have had to send it. I would have had to send it in 4 messages, and it was just going to take longer. So I just figured, fuck it. Like, you guys, you're all adults. You're not going to meta game it anyway.
No,
so
no.
you know, it's fine. All right.
All right,
there
so
we
we
go.
just got Norak out.
Yeah, you've got Norak freed. I would say that, in span of the time that they've been digging you out, the soldiers, half of them have rushed off. So you basically have 19 left that are still trying to help. that are surrounding you guys and trying to move with you, because Pepperjack did tell them to come with you. The other half have rushed off to the hole that's directly to the east of you to try to, just join the fray there to push the Albashar back. What are you guys doing? You've dug Norak out. He's still basically... Norak, you're able to stand up now. You're still covered in mud, but there's enough room or enough reduction in the weight above you that you could probably just stand up and push it off of you.
I think we should find Pepperjack to get an update, to find out if there's any news. Like, either find Pepperjack or fight off to get this wall closed. One of the two.
Well, they're already rushing around. You don't see Pepperjack yet. You do see Samson, and another. You'd be able to recognize a lieutenant on the uniform, even if you don't know this one. But another lieutenant that is also out here, as well as the sergeant. So you guys have a basic idea of military rank.
Okay.
So Pepperjack is the captain. You've got your lieutenants under him, and well, he's the commander technically, but his military rank's captain. You've got his lieutenants, and then the sergeants of the individual squads. So basically, you have a few of the Crowblinders leadership nearby.
I'd probably ask one of them what they need us to do.
So you see the you know what? It's probably the Samson's closest to you, anyways. Samson shouts at you. What do you mean? Just push them back. We have to get them outside of the walls.
All right.
Is there enough space? Like, is there enough space for me to hit a 15-foot cone of the Albashar without hitting any of our guys?
With some kind of deft maneuvering, you can get into a spot where you could blast just the hole in the wall where they're pouring through.
Alright, I'm gonna do that, and I'm gonna use Dragon's Breath.
Okay. You rush around where the soldiers are kind of forcing them back. They're kind of in a phalanx, like they're not really even attack. Like, it's kind of pointless to even bother, just because they just fall dead on the ground anyways. So they're mostly just like in a shield wall surrounding the Albashar and trying to push them back through it. You have to kind of rush up the side of the wall where it's blasted down, so it's almost like a muddy ramp up the side of the wall where the part that the side of it where it hasn't been blown out. You climb up through the mud as best you can, get a decent enough angle where you can blow out this cone. Go ahead.
And while she's doing that, these are just the super weak humans, right? The hungry, starving humans.
Yep.
I'm actually going to cast. I'm gonna do the same thing, just with sleep. So I gotta get within 90 feet, and then I'm gonna cast sleep in that same area after she casts hers.
Okay. So she just breathed out this big exploding cone of fire through them. That just what's that?
I'm actually gonna use acid.
Acid. Okay. That's fucking brutal.
Yeah, that's pretty brutal.
Bad enough, but they're just melting in place, screaming as this acid is burning off what little flesh they had left. And the soldiers are just pushing the remains, like these skeletal remains, back through the doorway until they're basically the soldiers are just standing there row after row. There's four rows of them backward. They're standing side by side. There's probably 4 by 4, so there's probably 16 of them standing in the hole where the wall had been. With shields above their heads, like basically like a turtle, like a phalanx turtle, standing there. As they're calling, the Samson shouts for somebody to bring the Wiccans, and then the other side. So the other one, like this one, she's already kind of melted this open, but there is the other side where the soldiers are trying to push the other one to the north a little bit, where they're trying to push them back.
Oh, in that case, if I can reach the north area, I'm gonna do the same thing with sleep.
Okay.
And that's basically 5d8s.
You can see that, by the way, there are some backlights that have come through the wall, not just the Albashar, on that north one, because it's taken longer to get them pushed back.
So the lowest hit points?
It'd be 14 of them. They all have 2 hit points. So,
okay, so 14 of them fall asleep.
14, yeah. The 14 that are closest to them just like kind of. Well, they like go dazed and then just fall underneath as the Crowblinders just step on them, pushing over them, just trying to push them back. But there's still backlights that are in the middle of it as well. Norak, what are you doing?
I'm going to stand up and
Okay, I'll be right back, guys.
All right.
go see if I can help the Crowblinders push back some of the Albashar.
Okay. Are you trying to like swing on them? What are you trying to do?
Uh,
Like you can, they're so densely packed. You can cleave through multiple as long as you don't hit a crow blinder.
yeah, I'll just try to, hack as efficiently as I can without hitting it.
Go ahead and make 2 attack rolls. Actually, you get 3 attacks, right? Or I guess, are you going to a rage?
Yeah, I'm going to since I'm going to go stand close to them. So
Okay.
pop that on.
All right, rage. All right, what'd I miss?
Norak is wading into the group of them to while out of. Oh, you had thrown Vulcan and hadn't put it back on. Okay, it's back. Where is it? I don't see. Okay, I might have to fix that. All right. So you kind of just put running forward in a rage. You grab literally just like by the ear. You palm the side of a crowblinder's head and just shove him out of the way, and just kind of barrel into the middle of the Albashar that are there, stepping over a few of them. By the way, the few that have just fallen asleep and just been stomped into the mud. As you just bowl into them and just knock them all directions as you begin swinging your axe. You just cleave through the 2 that are directly in front of you. Go ahead and roll damage twice. They all only have 2 hit points, so, I mean, this is just cleaving through. Okay, well, well, that would be the 27 divided by, yeah, so the entire group is just this kind of bloody melee surrounding you as the blood is swinging off of your axe, mixing with the rain as you kind of sail it all out. You've, like, almost single-handedly cleared this whole group after the 14 or so that Pogo had knocked underneath. But you're kind of holding this hole by yourself, this hole in the wall. The soldiers are still right behind you, kind of all in a shield around you, but you are just standing there in the middle. So you've cleared it. There's still more coming. Are you going to stay there? Or are you going to move behind and let the soldiers hold it?
I'm going to step behind and let them hold it for a second, but I'm going to wait there with them though.
Okay, you're standing behind them?
I'll let them take the lead, but then if anybody falls, I'm going to step in. Or if they start to get too much trouble, I'm going to step in.
Okay, you kind of turn.
Someone give that man a spear.
Was that Troy? What was that from?
Well, basically, can you imagine? Give him like an 18-foot spear, you just poke at him.
So there's actually a really badass build for that. If you use Sentinel and a polearm, the polearm reaches 10 feet, and then nothing can get past you. I kind of thought about making that for our Dragon Heist game, the one that Ben runs, but I liked the build that I used instead. I can still go at 10 feet. It just costs me a bonus action to do it. But anyway, you go to step back through the line, kind of lowering your axe slightly, and the one that you pushed out of the way just kind of looks up at you, gives you like a mean bug, like asshole kind of a look, as he kind of steps back into the place that you pushed him out of, and they kind of
should have been standing there.
And kind of they phalanx up and kind of fill that spot as the Albashar are just pushing against the shields, and they're just kind of pushing back, not really attacking them so much because they're a very weak force, so they can't really push very hard anyway. So until they start to climb over, they're okay for holding that spot. But Samson and the other lieutenant are shouting, trying to get the Wiccan over. And I will switch back over to Fox. Get back in just a minute. Okay, you there, Fox? Okay.
I just got back.
Okay. So you heard them talking in the tent there, and they've they're far enough behind you that it doesn't seem like they've noticed you. You are getting closer to the tent where it sounds like the screams are coming from. What are you doing?
I'm just gonna try and get a peek in, and then go and go into like an area that there's like pretty much nobody.
Okay. You peeking through the tent. Then you can see that there's a fire in the middle of this tent, like a big fire pit in the center, but it's a really big tent. And the fog, like with the light from the fog, is just basically illuminating this whole area. There's like a low, a hot fire that's burning in the center of the chamber. In fact, actually, even just being near the tent flaps, like there's like this oppressive heat coming out from it. It's probably just from the contrast of the kind of ice crystals that are in this fog. But you do see some post racks in there, and there's some humans that are chained to, like, at least 3 of them. There's 4 posts that you can see just by peeking through, and 3 of them there are people chained to them. And then there's a couple of larger like scaffold things, and there's people on those as well. One of them is a woman. You see a bald woman on one of them, and that's as much as you're able to see through the hole.
Okay, could it be maybe?
It definitely could be. She's not in red robes, of course. She's in a tattered, like a burlap pullover, like a tunic.
Well, I'm pretty sure they would have taken her clothes. Okay.
Yeah. But she is, bald head, so, and the tattoos.
Okay. I could see the tattoos, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
What are you doing?
Can I go back towards the maze?
Back towards the what?
The maze.
Where the command that they came out of, or the Erdeman came out? Oh, the maze. Sorry, you were cutting out right at the end there. Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna do that.
Okay. So you make your way back there. It is the direction that you saw the commander and the soldier walking.
Right. Is there anyone else around?
Not that you've seen so far. You can make another perception check, but so far, at least from the earlier one, you haven't seen any more.
Okay. Did anybody go back into that tent?
You had to turn around a corner. Make a survival check. That was stealth. Go ahead and re-roll it because it was, but just because it's comedic.
I thought I grabbed. Okay.
It's okay. Well, you rolled a natural 20 on your survival, so that's much better. But you did roll a natural 20 or a natural 1 on that stealth check again.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Yeah. So thankfully that we weren't rolling for stealth there. Anyways, you looking at the ground where the where the footprints are in the mud, you do see another set of footprints that were not there when you walked by the first time, that are heading into the tent.
Okay. I'm gonna go in then.
Okay. To clarify, you did see a set of tracks that walked into the tent that were not there when you walked by earlier.
Oh, sorry. No, then I'm not going to.
But there's a gap between the 2 tents. Like, there's space between.
Okay, I'm gonna go between them.
Okay. What are you doing?
I'm gonna quickly swap back. Do invisibility.
You're dropping your instant form?
Yes, and then taking the broom out of here.
Okay, you're flying out then?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Invisible. I'm gonna take the broom, hold on to the broom, cast invisibility, and then fly straight out.
Okay. Give me a stealth check again.
Work with me here, please.
You rolled a 14 plus 12 for a 26. So you successfully sail up through the fog. As soon as you are up and out of the fog, you look down and see that the area is huge. Like the space underneath you covered most of the. I guess you could. This would be going down. Is massive though. Well, that's what, like, the Iskil were definitely sleeping under there, but there's a command tent that you saw, and then that somebody had walked back into, and then there is the tent where the torturing sounds are coming from.
Yeah. Okay.
So basically that's all of that is underneath this fog. But off to the northwest, you can see that now they're basically looking out towards where your friends must be. You can see that there are 2 holes in the wall, and then directly to the west of you are 4 gargantuan giants. They're 35 to 40 feet tall. They are eye level with you, even though you are way up in the air, and they are digging out chunks of mud and just reaching down to the ground. They dig out a chunk of earth and just flinging it into Dunskathak, which destroyed 2 different parts of the wall. And Albashar had tried to pour through them. In both of those holes, Crowblinders rather are holding it now, but there's dead bodies all the way around. You can't tell from this distance whether they're your side or the Vabian Legion side. But basically, there's 2 holes in the walls that the Crowblinders, it looks like they're blocked. You can't see from this distance anybody else. You just basically see some shields, and you can tell that they're not Vabian shields.
Okay.
What are you doing?
Do I tell where the giants are coming from?
They are standing in the middle of all of the soldiers. So they're basically where each of those squares are, and all the tents were in the middle. Some of those tents, the really big ones, they're not there anymore, and the canvas is laying on the ground, and the giants are standing in their place. They're big undead giants. And you can gather basically that some of the tents that were in the middle of those squares were not tents at all. They were just big canvases that were laying. They were up to look like tents to hide these giants who were just laying in the mud. And they pulled those away, and now the giants stood up and are just launching mud at the big chunks of rock and mud at Dunskathak.
Okay. I'm gonna drop the other beacon thing near the giants.
Okay, so you're still invisible, so you're going to try to fly over the giants and drop it in?
Yeah.
Okay. They're spread out pretty far, but, I mean, they're basically, you wouldn't be able to get it near all of them, but you could put it near the closest one. Is that what you're going to try to do?
Yeah, the closest one.
Okay. Then you go ahead and give me a... It's going to be a stealth check anyway, but go ahead and give me another one. Okay. As you're sailing over, looking down, those glowing eyeball things that you saw the one of, you see them moving along the Mortrolis lines, and 3 different ones as you're flying over have stopped and are looking straight at you and look like they're about to do whatever the first one did that shot at you.
Okay, I'm gonna veer up and into the...
You're up in what?
Up into the clouds.
Okay. You're a long ways off from the clouds, but you can try to move up. Go ahead and give me a dex save with advantage. It seems like those eyes are able to see you even though you're invisible.
You said with
Okay.
advantage, right?
Yep. So you as you're sailing up and away, you see 3 different beams that were triangulated on the spot where you were, just kind of firing off behind you that basically all hit the spot behind you, but you're already too far up and away as you've made it up. Are you heading... Where are you going? Are you trying to fly back down to where your friends are?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, I'll go ahead and move you back to the group. Everybody will be back together. And here, I'll put you back in. Okay, everybody here?
Yes.
Oh, that's
Alright.
awful. Throw it away. Stop.
What's happening?
We bought this jerky from Grocery Outlet. It's so bad.
It doesn't even taste like jerky. It just tastes like weird hippie shit.
Nasty.
Is it biltong?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, so biltong, okay, that's different. That's not meant to be jerky. You know that, right?
You're actually eating chewing tobacco. Little
No,
known
well,
fact.
okay, so biltong, I think it's Vietnamese. It's like a Southeast Asian style of jerky. It's a little more, it's not dry, it's not as dried, it's a little meatier, but it's usually sweet, like it usually has a little sweetness to it.
Yeah.
So it's not, it's basically, it's not, you didn't buy jerky that has gone bad or anything like that, you bought biltong, and it's usually like smaller flecks of it and everything too, but anyways, like you bought something different, like that's just what biltong is supposed to be.
Oh yeah, I mean, I knew it wasn't bad or anything. It just had an odd flavor. It was made out of beef, but it was just kind of like a bad ginger flavor, not a good ginger flavor.
Yeah. I'm not a
I
huge
like
fan of it either. Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of biltong, but I've had it a few times, and like it's when somebody.
Bye, nice to see you again. It was nice meeting your boyfriend. I can't remember his name already. I love you, babe. All right.
So, as you guys may have noticed,
See you, man.
Norak may have noticed it first. But Fox comes flying in over the wall on the... shit, never mind, you didn't see her. She's invisible. So never mind. So Fox, what are you doing? You arrive. You see Norok is standing behind. There's those two holes in the walls that I described when you first came up. Norok is standing behind a group of soldiers on one of them that's to the northwest a little bit, and then Sarah and Pogo are near the one to the southeast.
Okay.
Well, Pogo's kind of in the middle. Basically, there's two squads of Crowblinders that are each holding one of these holes in the walls, and Samson is nearby with another lieutenant, and they're like directing the soldiers on where to stop the Albashar from coming through. So, what are you doing?
I'm gonna deep poke.
Okay.
Ask if I can help.
So you guys,
Hey!
Arteme flying
Look
in,
who's back!
drops invisibility. She does not seem to be injured.
Holy crap!
That being said, Norok is like bleeding profusely from the nose. He got smacked in the face with a few 100 pounds of mud. Those giants that you saw throwing chunks of mud, one of them hit Norok like square on, and buried him under mud. So Norok is very muddy and pouring blood from his nose. A little bit dazed. He's got a concussion. But other than that, Sarah and Pogo don't look to be injured either.
Okay. I'm gonna use healing word on Nora.
Okay. Well, an extra 6 hit points.
Thank you.
It's
That's
not
better than
much.
That's better than nothing. The bleeding stops. He's still concussed, but the bleeding stops. He'll have a lingering injury from it. But basically, the soldiers are doing their best to keep the Albashar from crawling over them, to try to pour in through it and just pushing them back as best they can. There's still shots from all around you. What are you guys doing?
I love you.
I'm gonna call out to get away from one of the holes and then use spike growth while staying at the max distance I can.
Okay. You
I'm
shout it
also
over.
gonna call out like watch your feet.
Okay. You shout it over to the group, and they don't respond. They're still like they're basically shields up. They can probably barely hear you anyways, especially through the rain and just the din of the fight. But Samson hears you, and he says, "What's your plan, Miss?"
Tell them
I'll
to go to
call them
range.
back.
Yeah,
I'll
tell
call them
them
back.
to go
Just
to
you gotta
range
tell me
and
what you're
use
gonna
your
do.
bows. I'm gonna use plants to slow them down so you guys can try and.
He nods and he shouts for them to fall back, and you see that there's a block, basically a 4x4, 16 of the Crowblinders, and they just march backwards in place, still holding shields above them, like a big turtle with the with the shields over their heads, except for the ones in the front. But they pull back enough that they're back about 15 feet away from the gap in the wall. As they're pulling back, the Albashar are pouring in front of them.
Okay,
What are
I'm
you
gonna use spike growth right as soon as they're out of the way,
Okay.
and then right on the like where they're gonna be at the middle of it.
Spike growth, is this your very last? You're casting the 3rd level? Use your last spell slot? Okay. Yeah, you did drop invisibility, so you don't have concentration to worry about. All right, go ahead and put up their concentration for that. There's at least a dozen of them in the middle of it, but I'm not going to have you roll the spike growth damage for a dozen of them, because basically the minimum... So they all have 2 hit points, but the minimum damage it can do is like a d8 plus 1 or something like that anyways, right?
I think so.
Let's see here. That's 2d4 piercing, meaning the minimum damage it can do is 2. So
Yeah.
basically, as they're stepping through it, they're just kind of collapsing into the spiky mud that is just kind of spiked up underneath their feet, and they're kind of falling in place on it. But others are piling on top of it very rapidly, and the bodies that are laying there are creating a strata of substrate that is no longer spiky. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, but people,
They're-
the Crowblinders should be using their arrows and bombard.
So they are as best they can, and they're picking. They're moving at a very good
They're
pace.
like 10
This is
feet
just-
away, though.
Oh, but they still can. That's fine. They're just
Yeah.
basically like they've got to just be drawing as fast as they possibly can, trying to shoot these guys. And basically, they're like you're seeing this hole in the wall be filled, 3 feet off of the ground with dead bodies. Like it's just one, another one steps through and he gets shot in the throat. Another one
Well,
steps
the
through.
good news is if we get enough dead bodies, then we don't have to worry about...
You got a wall made of dead bodies, sure.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean,
And they're trying to
improvise, adapt, and overcome.
they're trying to clamber over as best they can. The Crowblinders kind of fighting them off and then moving around this kind of
In fact,
pile of dead bodies.
on the entire area where the hole is, go ahead and cast sleep again.
Okay. Go ahead and roll the dice on it anyways. Was it 5d8?
Yep. Oop. Dang it. Oh, that just keeps going if you right click, huh?
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Norak, you turning behind you, you see one of the Miotau that you saw earlier rushing in again, holding a dirty child under each arm, and he stops next to you and kind of just like snorts loudly at you, and he just lets one arm go, and this dirty kid just lands at your feet, and then he goes rushing off towards the other side where Pogo, Sarah, and Arteme are. So you were able to knock 10 more of them out, who just kind of collapse in place as they're falling asleep on top of this pile of bodies. This pile is continuing to grow. It's probably 3.5, 4 feet tall by now.
It's like half a wall.
Well, I mean, it's getting there. It's filling up. And you looking behind you, then you hear this Miotau rushing in your direction like a bull rush, just a giant minotaur, carrying a dirty kid under one shoulder, and he drops the kid on the ground and then snorts, and he's just moves over towards where the crow blinders are and starts pushing that wall. Just like with all of the force, like basically he's got his hands are like kind of pushing through a rib cage here and through like a broken arm here, like there, like it's just pushing through this massive, very decrepit flesh already. These like very weak and fragile human beings that he's just trying to push as much of it as he can out of the way as this Wiccan child that's nearby you is starting to chant the ritual for Mold Earth nearby. Norak, the one that's beside you, looks up at you and kind of gives you, you think it's probably the girl, looks up at you and gives you just a very light smile and kind of reaches up trying to grab your hand.
All right, I'll take her hand and go over to the other side of the wall and protect her and get her to the wall to where she can start.
Put her on your
She's right
shoulders.
Okay. Yeah, so I'll just, I'll grab her and pick her up.
Time for a Norak ride.
Okay. And move some of the Albashar out of the way and get her to the wall so she can do the other thing.
There's no Albashar on your side. Your side,
Okay.
the crow blinders are blocking the hole, so that, like there's no Albashar that are able to get through so far. Go ahead and give me a charisma check with advantage.
Okay. And then I'm gonna, if I can, use my inspiration to use rejuvenate unless I'm.
Okay. Hey, all right. She gives you. You think it's the girl. She gives you, like the smile kind of widens. It's a very subtle smile. They've always been like difficult to trust. It seems like, but she kind of smiles when you grab her hand and you lift her up. Jesus, dude. I mean, you rolled max on the earlier one, so that's 3 of your hit dice for the day. But you lift her up. And she just seems like beaming, and this is the only time you've ever seen her actually smile, like a legitimate smile. But you set her on your shoulders.
She just loves the sight of dead bodies. She gets off on it. This kid's crazy.
Her view was awful before. Now she can see all the bodies on the outside and the cannibals that are coming in trying to eat her. But she, like you're immediately blinded because she starts swinging her fingers in the air, making these kind of arcane gestures that draws this glyph that is directly in front of your eyes. You can't see shit. Like it's like this blinding light, this like bright blue glow is right in front of your eyes, so you can barely see past it. But you're just kind of standing there as she's beginning to do this. The crow blinders are kind of pushing out and backwards, like for the other side, basically pushing out to the other side of the wall until the space between is clear and they fan out. And you see the mud, in fact, actually some of the mud that you were even just buried under, being kind of coalesced and pushed forward, and you feel the ground beneath your feet beginning to sink, like you're sinking in lower and lower as the ground underneath you is being moved up into this wall with the soldiers on the other side. As soon as it's up about halfway or so, you hear the other lieutenant that's nearby you shout, and they turn and clamber one by one, and basically as soon as one's over, he reaches down and grabs the next one. He puts like the soldiers holding its the shield in the left arm, blocking ahead of it, reaches its right arm back, and the soldier behind him grabs him and lifts him up, and they do that one by one until they're pulled back over it as this wall is growing taller and taller until it's up all the way again, and the Albashar are not able to push through. That one in front of you, of course, you see that basically with the Wiccan on your shoulders, the little girl, is just kind of gleefully forming this mud up, like playing in the mud for a baby mage. But she's able to kind of patch this up. Sarah, Arteme, and Pogo on your side, Similarly, the Wiccan that's behind you is trying to push this back as best it can, with the Miotau pushing through the bodies, but the Miotau is not able to clear all this on its own. You basically, the child is starting to form, the little boy is starting to form the mud up, but there's still bodies in the way. What are you guys doing?
Can I use the acid from my dragon's breath to dissolve the bodies?
It's still up. It lasts for a minute, right?
I believe so.
Okay. So you saw Arteme fly in and spike these guys, and these bodies begin to pile up. So there is room. You can do that. The soldiers have moved back enough.
Alright.
You got a Minotaur in the way, but
Alright, well, I'm going to tell him to back up for a second, and then as soon as he's out of the way...
Is Minotaur the one holding the things back at the break in the wall?
yeah, he's pushing the bodies out. He's trying to push them through the wall to the other
Oh, got it.
side. He's basically like with just trying to force this wall of bodies out.
Tell you what,
to make
I think Thunder Wave might help too. Like that. Well, no, I don't want to hurt somebody or break the wall or something.
How big is it?
It pushes items back 15 feet.
Yeah, but how big is the AoE?
15 feet cube.
15
So
foot cube.
It's 15
It's a
feet
20 foot
right
gap.
from me.
It's a 20-foot gap in front of you. You could probably blow most of the bodies out. You're pretty confident that you can blow a lot of the bodies away, presumably,
Alright.
because it's 15 feet and you can tell that the gap is 20 feet wide.
Oh, okay.
So if you just
in
stood
that
in the
case,
middle, you can get most of them pushed out of the
in
way.
that case, I'm gonna go kind of next to the Minotaur, and I'm going to. So I'm going to start doing a chant, and I'm going to look at him and tell him to kind of back off a little bit, and I'm going to cast Thunder Wave against this giant mound of bodies to try to knock them back as far as I can, or at least if I can't knock them out, just disperse them with this, so that there's enough room for them to rebuild the wall.
Okay. You tell him to back away a little bit. He pulls his hand back, pull both of his hands away from the bodies, and kind of turns away a little bit. And as he's turning, okay, so this concussive explosion just blasts away from your hands, and you see just an explosion of bodies flinging out all over the backlights behind you, like they're just 20 feet, 30 feet in the air, flying out and just spiraling through the air until they land landing on top of like.
Did that make the little girl laugh?
Well, the little girl's over there with Norak, but the
right.
boy is still behind you, and he's still kind of trying to mold the earth up in front of it. But the Miotau he roars and looks at you and says, "You could have warned me."
Sorry.
He kind of
I'll warn you next time.
He was down and kneeled out, like he thought that he didn't know this bomb was going to go off next to his face. But he kind of stands back up and just kind of rustles your hair and turns and heads back over towards the Wiccan. But you've blasted them enough away that the child is able to kind of push just basically a very thin wall at first. Instead of where the other one was growing from the ground up, he actually fills the wall on the outside where it's only a few inches thick, and then it gets thicker and thicker as it's growing closer towards you guys until it fills this gap in the wall with the mud that is coming from underneath your guys' feet. You realize now, by the way, that Dunscathik is like sinking. They're digging every time they do this. They're pulling mud from underneath your feet and filling the wall with it. If that makes sense, you guys understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yes.
So eventually, you're going to excavate like all of whatever that subterrane is if they keep having to do this. But anyways, they have patched the walls. The fighting has stopped. The soldiers are all back on the inside. This was essentially another one of those little, just like the excursion you guys had previously where they breached the wall, just on a little bit more, dramatic scale at this, because they had kind of responded to the explosion. But you are back inside. Arteme is with you. What are you guys doing?
So at this point, since we've had no other further attack, they probably either think that this is some sort of trap to lure them in, or they don't think it was a bad enough attack for them to change their original plans. I'm assuming we feel like that was the plan, and it seemed to have worked for the way that we wanted it to.
Yeah.
Like, we have a feeling of that.
Your guys' rolls were really good. Fox had some disastrous rolls.
Yeah, the fact that she's alive is
oh, dude, she was literally by one roll, and she actually, not even kidding. So I actually put this in chat too. She was supposed to roll a survival check, accidentally, and this would have been her last failure. That would have been it. She would have been captured. She was supposed to roll a survival check, accidentally rolled a stealth check, rolled a natural 1.
Oh my god!
Stealth check. Not kidding. Here, in fact, I don't think I put the survival check in there. Let me show you guys. Rolled a natural 1, and then because it wasn't supposed to be survival, it was supposed to have been stealth.
It was supposed to be survival. I actually grabbed stealth instead of survival, so he made
Yeah.
me roll survival.
So I let her, re-roll it because it should have been her survival check. Go ahead and look in the embers. That's what she got.
Oh.
Her accidental one would have been it. You guys would have been on a rescue mission to try to save Arteme, very fast somehow, because that would not have been well. But she rolls the actual check when it was supposed to be survival. She rolled a natural 20 on that and managed to get herself out of there very rapidly. So you guys are all. Samson is shouting to the soldiers to fall back. There's 2 wounded soldiers that were on the side where Norok was, and he shouts them down to the infirmary. And the Wiccan children, the Miotau picks the both of them back up. The little girl waves. The Miotau pulls her off of your shoulders, G, and kind of sets her on his shoulder, and is just holding onto her so she can't fall. And the boy he's got up under his arm, and she's just waving at you very delightedly as he's walking away.
Cool.
I want to
What are you guys doing?
On the wall and use the spyglass to see if I can see where the giants are, what they're doing.
They are, like, just by the time that it took to rebuild those walls, they've kneeled back down, and you can see that 2 of them are already, like, in a fetal position, and the Backlights are trying to pull the tarps back over them again.
Okay.
I'm going to ask...
One of them does appear to be wounded, by the way.
I'd like to go ask Arteme what happened. What happened out there? Very curious.
I'm just gonna look at him and say, "You do not want to know."
Was it so nothing? There's nothing. Is there anything special or handy? Any good news? Or is there any bad news?
I was able to drop one of the beacons right in the middle of the Mora nest.
So that was the nest then.
Yeah, plus a torture tent and a few other things. I think might be in there, but
shit!
You're pretty sure it's her, and not only that, we were in a little bit of a hurry there.
Isn't the beacon kind of like lacing a target? Like, isn't that telling the air support where they're supposed to attack?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Maybe it's probably in there. They captured a couple more halflings that refused to talk, and there's the torture tent. That's about it. I didn't stick around to try my luck.
Well, we need to probably tell Pepperjack this information.
I'm gonna see if after a rest, if I could figure out a way to drop a couple more of these things where the big tents are for the giants, and that's about it. I don't think there's much else we could actually do to help.
I'll tell you that everybody knows that those big tents, that's what those are now. They saw it from the inside. You were in the fog, so you didn't know.
Oh yeah, no. But what I'm saying is, I'm gonna try and see if I could stealthily drop some, like after a rest and a bit more planning, to see if I could actually put some of the another sensor near some of those to at least get rid of a few of them. Right.
Okay. So we can come to that, of course. But do you, I guess, from here then, because we're coming to time anyways, of course. What are your guys' next steps? Are you planning to try to rescue my EB now?
We're gonna talk that over with Pepperjack. Probably try, but considering getting out of there was pretty hairy, I'm not sure what we could actually do. But now at least we know her location.
Okay.
The eyes are going to be horrible to try and get around because they could see people through stealth when they attack. I'm not really sure what they are. I'd rather.
I forgot to tell you guys. Those eyes. Well, Fox, go ahead, Fox. You explain, because they didn't see that. So okay. They know about they did see the eyes, but they didn't see what the eyes do.
Okay, so basically what the eyes do is they'll see you through stealth. Or through invisibility, and they fire some kind of heat, is the best I could describe it.
You cut out there, Fox.
They fire some kind of heat laser.
Oh, laser beams.
Yeah.
Now, you
So,
guys were not on the wall at this point, but there would have been an illumination from behind you, as you saw 3 beams shoot up into the air, trying to hit Fox as she was flying away. So you would have seen those, like, basically be able to put 2 and 2 together that that's what she's talking about. You just wouldn't have been able to tell it came from the eyes.
so there's some kind of detection device with combat capabilities, or limited combat capabilities, if that's it.
Well, at least we accomplished. You know, it may have been very risky, and Norak almost died, but at least we didn't accomplish much.
Well, you guys do know, as Artemis said, you guys do
We know
know
where
where
Maybe
Maibi is. Yeah, and if you can recover her, she could potentially help with the summoning to get to Crowfort here faster.
So basically, we accomplished 2 goals. One, we planted something to get rid of the Amora as if we can. 2, we found out Maibi's location at the very least. So there's 2 birds, one very risky mission. And
from
so
what you
both
saw-
goals were accomplished, except for finding out what the hell they're after in here.
Did it look like any ideas on how we could rescue your friend?
The tent's not that far from the edge of the fog, is
No, it was well. If you would come from the other, if you'd come from the northwest, basically, you came from the southeast, so you're about as far inside the dome as you had to pass the Amora nest, and you had to pass the command tent. So if you were coming from the other side, then you would be like right at the tent, like you would come straight to where she is.
here.
Oh, here, let me bring the region back up, and I can give you an idea. I could make a closer one. Well, it would probably be pointless, but all right. So that big where the blue circle is, right?
Mm-hmm.
The area where the roost is it shift? Shift what clicks? No, that's square. There we go. All right. So the roost is on that. Whoops. Well, I just made your sphere bigger, but basically the roost is down here, command tent here, and the torture tent where she is up here. It's the closest. It's the closest thing to Dunskath.
Okay, so gotcha. So we. She's like there.
Yeah, if you were coming, if you could go straight there, it would be the closest thing in the big fog sphere.
Okay.
But we just have to get past laser eyes, and you can't be invisible.
Well, you potentially could. You just, if you get close to those eyes, they'll see through it.
Mm-hmm.
Based on what Artemis saw, they aren't smart. It's just basically like, think of it like a stealth video game where they have a cone of vision. If you're within that, they're going to be able to see through it. She just happened to be right in their cone of vision, basically, a few times, twice.
I mean, and you were flying, so if we're moving around, what kind of environment is outside Dunskathic?
Environment. How do you mean? Like
trees, bushes?
So it's been completely. It was like a decently dense forest. Well, it was a decently dense forest, but they cut down all the before the Legion showed up. They chopped down all the trees to build the walls. Okay. So it's pretty much a deforested forest. Tree stumps everywhere. Relatively flat though, except for the mounding area that's out to the southeast.
Mm-hmm.
Well, on that note,
yeah, we can go ahead and call it here, guys, if you want.
We can chat about stuff in Discord.
Yeah, exactly. You guys can continue your guys' plans just like you were last week. On I
feel like at this point, Pepperjack is gonna give us a few more answers. You got to see a little bit more into our abilities now.
Maybe. you guys did pull off a really ridiculous plan, so.
Yeah.
So I didn't tell Fox this ahead of time either. Basically, if you had gotten to 4 successes or 4 failures first, is what you were aiming for, and you were at 3 failures before you got any successes. Then you got 3 successes, and then that last failure, that last natural 1, Fox, that would have been it. That was the last one. You would have been captured.
Okay.
But you managed to pull. You didn't end up needing. You only got to the 3 successes, but It's still.
And
it
then
worked out
he
fine.
had the nerve to put it in Discord so we could see you almost die.
I mean, just because it was so amusing, somehow in this, you you probably rolled like 6 natural ones throughout that. They just
Yeah.
weren't the important skill checks. Like the important skill checks, you had 3 of at that point. Yeah, it was a fun time. So, good
I
job,
feel
everybody.
like in that
I
entire
was holding
thing,
my breath for most of that. Like, jeez.
the rest of us rolled 1-1.
Yeah, they did great. Like their rolls were great the whole time.
Yeah.
Fox
All right.
Fox should never be off by herself because she just like can roll 1-1-1-1-1. Whereas at least if you guys are around, you can kind of help a little bit.
All
I
right,
guess,
guys.
But like, yeah.
All right, guys. Well, we'll chat in Discord, and it was fun playing with you. I'll talk to you later.
Yep. Night, everybody.
Good night.
Right.